What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Meaning of Podcast. I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we talk about your favorite filmmakers and the deeper meaning within their films. And this episode is a very special episode because we're going to do another review. This time we're going to be reviewing the superhero movie Deadpool 2, as well as we're going to be talking about Ron Howard's filmography. He's got a lot of movies, so we're going to try our best to make a condensed version so we don't do a 4.5 hour podcast because we don't want to do that to you guys. But first of all, we're going to start with Deadpool review, the Deadpool 2 review, I'm sorry. But before we even get to that, we're going to read your comments from last week's episode. And last week's episode, and the reason why we're doing Ron Howard, is because of Han Solo coming out in a couple of days. And Ron Howard is directing that movie, which was originally going to be directed, or was directed, kind of directed, by Mr. Christopher Lord and... Never mind. Lord and Miller. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller.
Yeah. It could be Christoph Miller. You never know. I've only seen Chris.
I'm pretty sure it's Christopher Miller. But either way, guys, as far as this episode goes, it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the bad, man. I mean, we're trying.
Hey, man, we had a fun time.
And I thought it was fun. I love these guys. They obviously have a very small filmography, but I truly feel like each and every one of their films are excellent in their own way, and that's my opinion. But apparently you guys have different ones because we're going to be reading your comments, starting with Mr. Reynaldo Dominguez III. He says, I disagree with Ace, by the way, on Solo. I think the decision to go from Lord and Miller to Ron Howard was a good one. We'll see once we see the movie, right?
Yeah, we'll see what's up.
I mean, I still feel like Lord and Miller, regardless of quality, regardless of continuity, like I said last week, I still feel like they would have made something original. They would have made something different. And whether it's everyone's favorite Star Wars movie or better than the original, probably not. But at least it would have been something unique into the Star Wars filmography. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would have liked to have seen something different. I know the hardcore Star Wars people might have been a little peeved off about it, you know, about having a Phil Lord and Chris Miller thing. But either way, I mean, you can't really go wrong with Ron Howard. He's had some hit and misses. But at the end of the day, he is a multi-Academy Award nominated / winning director. So it's a good alternative. But
it is, but a lot of people are saying the reason they brought him in was mainly to like reel everything in and just make it the word that everyone's using is safe. We'll see once we see the movie, but I still feel like they would have made something slightly different. Basis 1996 says, nice plug with Accepted. Love that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's a shout out to you. You got a lot of love for Accepted. I even saw people on Twitter being like, yo, Accepted, that's the shit. RB3, you're my favorite.
Hey, nah, man.
Elijah Yates says, shout out to Accepted.
Yes.
And then I got some shout outs from D. Joseph saying, Oi, Ace. Oi, Ace.
Oi.
Good stuff on Movie Fights, mate. Shows your hectic intelligence, bro.
Yeah, I was going to mention Movie Fights, bro. Let's go.
I was on Movie Fights, guys. If you guys didn't see that, go ahead and check it out. It was with Bettany, fellow SK Plus podcast friend / person.
Yeah, hey man, listen, you got robbed. I feel like for a lot of those questions, you got cut off in one round. I felt like you should.
Oh, dude! All right, let's bring it up on air. I forgot to tell you off. Might as well just bring it up on air. No, I'd rather not bring it up on air. It's the third question that really got me upset, and I was talking to JT afterwards as well.
Yeah,
it's literally like. I picked Taxi Driver as the best Palme d'Or winner for the Cannes Film Festival,
right?
Or the Cannes Film Festival. Sorry, guys. And I had a breakdown, bro. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is why I had this all breakdown. Mm-hmm. And Bibiani and Elena, God bless them, were just going back and forth so much. And I was like, yo, I'm ready. I'm about to jump in and I'm going to blow everyone's minds because I'm going to be talking about the relevancy of Taxi Driver to today, 2018, being that like that bitter like white man coming back from war and being very politicized and very like pulled to the right almost to the point of violence
Yeah.
is so relevant to today. I thought so, and I thought that was a dope argument.
I saw you warming up to that,
and I literally said, "Yeah, this movie is great because it gives you that white perspective." Cut off, and that's it. And it sounds like I'm saying this movie is awesome because of white people.
Yeah. Well, no, see, and then they
So
didn't let you finish.
They didn't let me finish, and I was like, "Wait a minute! You literally cut me off when I'm starting to say a statement about race, and it sounds really bad." So there's some people in the comment section being like, "Ace is supporting the Aryan race. Yes, Ace, white people all the way, extreme right." And I'm like KKK, and I'm like, "Whoa, no, that's not what I was going for."
That's a lot of Screen Junkies fans. I'm not gonna lie.
No, for real though, there was some people being like, "Yeah, Ace was gonna talk about the great white race," and I'm like, "No, that's not what I was gonna say." They cut me off, and I got so mad because I was like, "You guys are painting me as like a villain," and I literally said that. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but then,
I had a dope argument. I swear.
You know what I hate?
I said 2 words in the 3rd round.
Hey, listen, I'm not gonna lie. Hey, listen, I always get a little like thrown off when white people start complaining about non-white people talking about white people shit. Like, isn't that kind of crazy? Like, I don't know. That was a little. Hey, man, but you killed it.
I picked Obi-Wan as my Star Wars. And I support that all the way.
And they pulled the race card on you again. The white man pulled the race card on you.
I know. Come on, man. I get it, dude. My issue. This is what I'm gonna say right now too. Like, not Obi-Wan's my favorite Star Wars character. I think he's awesome. I think Ewan McGregor is amazing. I think that's the movie you should make. I'm never gonna not stand by that.
Yeah.
But I've been saying, and I literally said it on last week's episode. They shouldn't have done a solo movie. They should have done a Lando movie. They should have done.
That was just so frustrating about
Star Wars story.
Me hearing that argument on movie fights, like, because you literally were just talking.
Yeah, and that's why I've been supporting the Lando movie since like before they announced the solo movie. Like, I thought that would always be a good idea. But my issue with that too is I feel like it's a double-edged sword because I feel like pulling the whole like, I think it's time for a black person to have a solo. And it's like, I think it was time before solo. Come on. I mean, I hate that card of like, I think it's time and I think it's fine. I'm glad that Lucasfilm can go fuck itself because Lucasfilm chose to do a white man movie, chose to do a white man story in Star Wars Solo. If you're really diverse, if you're really progressive, you would have done a Lando movie first.
Or worse,
and that's why it gets me mad when it's like, oh, they're. I think it's time, and I'm like, it's been time, bro. I mean, you can't pull that card on me. Like, don't pull that card on
again. And it's worst of all because they've only been hiring exclusively like white male directors like for other projects. And it's like, all right, cool. I guess Bibiani didn't want to fucking argue that, but then like, it's I don't know, man. That's just,
I don't know. That's the kind of thing that gets me. That gets to me, man, because for me, it's like if you're really progressive, you wouldn't have done a solo movie. You wouldn't have made another white-led solo movie. That's just my opinion. And Obi-Wan's awesome, and he's the best. I'm done.
Hey, man, you did great on Movie Fights. We still love Bibiani, critically acclaimed, one of the best podcasts out.
Yeah.
So, you know.
If I had a couple more seconds on that one, I feel like I could have come up with some better. I feel like my argument too was about more like bridging the gap of Star Wars fandom because I feel like Star Wars fandom is kind of like on fire right now as far as like negativity. Yeah, especially now.
You could have brought in the best.
And Ewan McGregor, everyone loves Ewan McGregor. Old people love him, young people love him, and people who don't know who he is would love him. Like that's the kind of actor he is. That's the kind of character he would be. And I started to say that, and I lost time because it's a speed round. Either way, support Obi-Wan, support Lando, support Star Wars. I still do.
Support Movie Fights that Ace was on.
Yeah, go and check it out on Screen Junkies, the channel.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
You had him like on the ropes, bro. So salute to you for that.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
Clapping sound effect in there.
Isaac Robinson says shout out to Ace on Movie Fights.
Hey.
Lou Bloom. Shout out to Lou Bloom. I think Lou Bloom was like chilling too somewhere.
He was in the chat.
Was he?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
I thought I saw him in the comment section of Screen Junkies. Creep and Creep 2 is one of the best double features. Interesting. I haven't seen those films.
I haven't seen them either. I heard they were pretty good.
Now I will. Brian Sauter says, I think these two, Lord and Miller, should do a Blue Beetle Booster Gold movie for DC. Yeah, why don't we see a Blue Beetle movie? We can finally see a Latino superhero.
Oh, is he Latino?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah, Blue
okay,
Beetle. We
okay.
can finally see our first Latino superhero, unlike Marvel, who's killing them off.
Yeah, literally snapping them away.
Zoe Saldana, what's up? You out?
Yeah.
Get out of here, Gamora.
Hey, still got Lupita Nyong'o technically.
That's true. We still got
Yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o in a partial way.
Right.
And we got Luis, obviously, from Ant-Man.
I don't know if he survived the snap though.
That's true.
My question is, they didn't they originally write the script for the Flash film, right? Like, and they were originally in talks to direct that as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But there was like a million directors attached to The Flash.
Yeah.
Like the guy
but
from Dope was attached to it.
Yeah.
Like,
But
there
they
was
were
a
on there
ton.
before the
That's
guy from
true.
Dope. Yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I mean, the DC directing is another
the
issue.
DCEU sucks. That's right, DCEU fans. Keep coming at me.
See, that's RB3's opinion. It is not mine. Don't tweet at me.
Hey, speaking of the DCEU, we have a lot of DC making fun of in our in this new
Yeah,
release
let's talk
movie.
about this movie. This movie is called Deadpool 2. It did okay box office wise.
I did great, man. 125 million.
125 million when the first film did 134 million in a February release.
Right, but
When
this is 3
one was
weeks after Infinity War. Like, that's pretty big.
Infinity
like,
War, which made like 20 mil this week.
20, dude. Movies want to open to 28 million.
I'm sorry, man, but
that's pretty big. Now, I can't run with this whole narrative of that being disappointing.
That's
big money, bruh. I know the estimates were 150, but like 125. That's most. That's the what's that? The third highest R-rated opening of all time. Like,
Yeah,
that's
so
a
I think
fucking
it's the
record.
second highest, yeah.
Or second highest. Yeah. Well,
I think it barely. It was like 125, right?
It is number one, and I think.
Deadpool 1 is number 1.
Okay, all right, but then I think it's under it then. But either way, like still number
Yeah,
3.
it's like it around it. Range.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it made 125. I might be
Alright.
wrong, but I think so. It's tied, maybe. Either way, it made like top 3 opening weekend, but it made less than the first one, which I feel like that's a slight disappointment. It's obviously not disappointing because it made a lot of money, but that's a slight disappointment because you want the sequel to make more money, even if it's like 5 mil more. If it made like 135, it would have been like, all right, it made a little bit better, but like
I guess
10
I mean I don't even think like that's a fair, because I don't think there was the same kind of hype going into. I think what the initial first Deadpool hype was to me the initial Deadpool hype was what got it to 135 million, like an R-rated superhero movie. Like that was ground in
on
February,
Valentine's Day.
right? The way it was marketed, like that was pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, I still feel like the marketing for the first one was better.
and it was better, and I feel like again
This one was solid though. It was pretty solid.
It was good, but it wasn't. They didn't have a lot of novelty to
Sure.
really back it. You know what I mean? It
Sure.
wasn't like the Valentine. They could do something like really weird and special.
One of my
with that.
favorite posters from the first Deadpool, because I remember I talked about it, was the one where it just looks like a Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah.
Where it's literally
Like
just
Ryan
Moriarty,
Reynolds. Yeah.
Moriana Baccarani.
I don't know. How to
She's
pronounce
Brazilian. And Ryan Reynolds just
Yeah.
sitting on a park bench.
Yeah,
And it says
yeah.
Deadpool on Valentine's Day, and they're
Yeah.
like looking like they're about to kiss.
it. Right.
And I was like, that's funny. That's
Yeah.
cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the movie. Deadpool 2. I'm going to start with you, RB3, because I got a lot of thoughts. I got hot thoughts.
Yeah.
That's spelled with THOTS.
You always send that in text messages too. I love it.
Starting with you, RB3, general thoughts. Liked it, loved it, hated it. What'd you think?
I liked it a lot. I actually it's probably on par with like the first one for me.
Okay.
I never really thought of the first Deadpool as like the cinematic masterpiece. It was kind of, you can even go back to when I was on the Schmoes No Show. We talked about the top 10 superhero movies of 2016. I kind of said like this, the same thing. Like for me, it's funny. It's super funny. It makes me laugh a lot. But then it's still kind of a paint by number superhero movie. And this movie was kind of almost the same thing. It was kind of another paint by numbers superhero sequel. But then, and it took a lot more chances than I feel like the first one did, like narrative wise, that I really appreciate. Some of them were a hit, some of them like were kind of a miss. But I think overall, the fact that it took more risk and it had a bigger scope. The action was a little bit better for me, and it felt like a little less generic. So for me, it's around the same the same level of hype as the first.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm also not as high on the first one as most people are. I didn't think it was as great as people were claiming it to be. It was a lot of hype, to be fair, though. People were giving it like 10 out of 10 and like 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
They were saying it's like the funniest superhero movie ever, the best superhero movie ever. Like they were saying some big things. So when I saw it, I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny sometimes, but I didn't think it was as great. Like I've seen other superhero movies that I find funnier. I've said it many times on this podcast here that I find a lot of superhero movies that I've seen before funnier than Deadpool. So I wasn't high on the first one initially, but I was still excited to go into this one. Like I want to make that super clear. Like I was high to go on this one. Like I was hype. I went with a buddy of mine who loves Deadpool. So he made me excited too, just hanging around him. But to be honest, this one was okay. I feel like the first one was better. I feel like Deadpool, whether you like it or not, makes it or breaks it through the humor. And I feel like this more humor falls flat than lands in this movie. And I also feel like the fourth wall breaking, like I'm telling you, man, the first hour in this movie, I'm in. I'm loving it. I'm laughing. I'm having fun. But it's hard to keep momentum in a fourth wall meta humor superhero wall breaking movie that has crude humor and kind of like not traditional humor as far as like keeping you in, more like just saying a bunch of crazy bad words super fast, like fuck knuckle buckberry chuckberry looking chubby and I'm gonna stick him right up the ass. It's like it's not funny. It's just not. You're just saying words. It's not funny to me. It's hard to keep momentum. And also the fourth wall breaking, to me, the fourth wall breaking is fun when you don't know it's going to be broken. And there has to be a break too. I don't know if that makes sense. You have to know that you're watching a movie and then he's breaking the wall. Breaks it, builds it up again. You're watching the movie, breaks it again. This one felt like the wall was always down, if that makes sense. I never truly felt, maybe there was a few moments in the movie where I was like, okay, this is a movie, but then he broke it again. So for me, the fourth wall breaking was a little bit of a hindrance for me. Even though he did it a lot in the first one too, but I feel like in this one he did it even more. And I feel like some of the meta humor jokes just didn't land. Like it just like I get it. That's a call to that. Yep, that's another call. That's another callback to that. And I feel like this movie is going to be entirely subjective, even more so than other superhero movies because of the humor. Because it's a comedy. It's more than anything else, right? So if I don't connect to the humor as much, that's fine. And if someone else does, that's fine as well, because it's super subjective humor. But I feel like this humor is much more like, yo, he's gonna grab an electrical cord and stick him up the ass because it's hysterical, right? And I'm like, no, sure.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't think that's fun. I don't think that's creative. I think that's kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, I get you. I mean, when you talk about jokes like that one didn't work. But I mean, to me,
that one was just like, all right. It's like, he sticked it up. It's like, if I was fucking 10, maybe I would think it's funny, but I'm not 10.
Yeah.
And I get it. Deadpool is supposed to be 10. Like, I hear the comments right now being like, you don't get it, Ace. He's supposed to be like 10-year-old. I know what his humor is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like 10-year-old type humor. I just don't find it funny, and that's okay. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like, for me, like, I personally, those jokes like that didn't really work. There's some other jokes in there that didn't work. But to me, like, the ones that worked really hard. Like for me, like in the very beginning and of course this is all spoiler alert, people.
Yeah, spoilers.
This is the very first thing that happens in the movie when they kill Vanessa, and then it's like this super sad moment, and it immediately cuts to the James Bond opening. That destroyed me. That killed me. That was hilarious.
Best part of the whole movie for me.
Yeah.
Even that song is fire. That song is fire.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it right now on this episode of the podcast. Even though Deadpool 2 isn't my favorite movie, we just saw the Academy Award winner for Best Song. It's gonna be what is it called? Ashes.
Yeah,
dude, by Celine Dion, making it like James Bond, and I love James Bond.
Yeah,
I love that opening scene, and I loved how they immediately made it a serious moment, and then they kind of made it like less serious. The more time the music video went on, I loved it. You're right, that scene hit for me. But I told you, I was in the first hour, especially with that. I was in. I was like enjoying the action. I enjoyed the death. I enjoyed that they kind of made fun of the death in that opening scene. I enjoyed the James Bond theme. Like all that stuff for me worked. Like it worked well. Even like the Deadpool like when he was going to when Colossus was getting to him and he was like bringing him to the house, like all that was funny to me.
The X-Men. Okay, the house
when he
scenes
went to
were
the
killing
X-Men,
me.
like
When they
all
just-
that, I was laughing, like I was having fun. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But then it just started to go down for me.
I don't know. Maybe I don't remember the parts that went down so hard because I was just riding so hard off, like, because the peaks, like the house, like just when they open the door and you see like James McAvoy and
Beast close the door.
Evan,
And it's Nicolas
Evan Peters in the
Hospice.
background. Yeah, I love that one. I love the whole thing with the Wolverine and Logan stuff. I loved the Brad Pitt cameo. Is probably my favorite part of the entire movie. And I don't know. For me, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know. Maybe the ending like wasn't like the strongest. I guess.
And
but
the
then,
third
like,
act's pretty weak. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty freaking weak.
Yeah, but they cap it off with like two of the best post credit scenes. I think.
I told my friend the post credit scene is better than the whole movie. In my opinion, that's just my opinion, guys. I love the post credit scene. I think it's great. But let's
for me though, I guess like what carried my interest in that latter half of the movie was less of Deadpool and more of Cable and Domino.
Really, because I found that they were barely in the movie.
Really? Well,
yeah.
I
loved the action scenes with Cable were better than any other action scenes in the movie, in my opinion. Like I thought he was dope. Like he was just cool.
He was cool, but then I feel like they left him a little cheesy to like, keep like the high. I wish they would have went like full badass, like fucking like mechanical full arm and like, you know what I mean? Like made it really look, because that kind of looked like a cosplay costume.
Cool. I don't know. I thought he looked cool.
Yeah, there's some parts that look like a cosplay costume. Like for me at least, like when we first see him come down and it's like that Matt Damon cameo and he's like walking, and I don't know, to me that looked kind of fake. I don't know why.
Okay.
But he did have some really cool action scenes, and I love the way that they handled like Domino's action in this movie too. Just because like to me that was probably one of the most interesting parts.
Absolutely. But that's kind of, I feel like is that a negative for me? That my favorite action scenes were Domino and Cable, not Deadpool. I thought Deadpool's action scenes were whatever. I thought Domino. I mean, I've always enjoyed. I knew about Domino from, I've seen her in like animated shows too, and I've known about her from comics. So I love that the idea of luck being her power, and that's always like every time when Domino was first like cast in this movie, people asked me at work. They were like, who's Domino? She's like cast in Deadpool too. And I explained the power. But it's supposed to be like things that seem to be going wrong kind of go her way kind of thing. And almost like in the way the actual official like comic wiki explains it is like almost like in a telekinetic kind of way, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like Jean Grey. She doesn't have telekinesis, but she has like almost like a adrenaline based telekinesis. Like when she's in a stressful situation, the bullet's gonna bounce off the wall or something's gonna turn in kind of like a wanted kind of way and make it go her way kind of thing. And they did that in the movie excellent. I thought her action scenes were dope. Like they were cool. But for me, like overall, the first half of the movie is fun for me, and then it just starts to go, especially when it starts going towards.
What do you think
the third
was
act.
the thing like that really slowed it down for you? Like what part?
I thought Deadpool's motivation to me, I was like, man, they're really pulling at straws as far as like breaking the dream wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. Cool. And it's like he needs to get his heart bigger, so he has to go after the kid. And I'm like, all right, very thin motivation. And just all that just felt so thin to me. And I saw the murder of the X-Force to me was like, I knew they were gonna die as soon as they got on the plane. Like I was like, they're all gonna die, and it's gonna be.
I love that.
I was like, this is so trivial. This is so like, I didn't care for it at all. I was like, I knew this was gonna happen, and I just found it like, I don't know. I just found it like so predictable.
Okay, see, I think that's where.
I think after that is when I started to be like,
I was gonna say, I think
this
that's
is so predictable.
That's
now.
right at the point that I think people are gonna love and hate this movie, because when that happened, I loved it. I was like, all right, this is enough to carry me through the rest of the movie. Like that to me was like I know like the whole opening credit scene was probably the funniest joke, but for me that like was like the hardest hitting like risk they could have taken.
Sure.
So I was super down for that. And then I guess for me that just rode me through the rest of the movie. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man.
What do you think the script flowed though? Do you think like
no? I mean,
the plot and the motivation?
No.
But it doesn't matter, right? Because the Deadpool
was. I mean, yeah. I mean, like
that's kind of a fair point.
Yeah.
It didn't matter in the first one.
It didn't exactly. And I feel like for me, like the biggest problem with the first one, when you really think about it, there's really only like 3 action scenes. You know, like but just spread out super far and like long throughout the movie. For me, this felt like the action scenes like had a little more of like not motivation, but like there's some differentiating that you could do there, and it was a little more varied, and I really appreciated.
Yeah, the action wasn't bad. I just felt like most of the humor, especially towards the end, fell a little flat.
Yeah, the big CGI fight joke, I thought that was pretty funny. When he was like, "Oh, it looks like a big CGI fight," one of the Colossus and Juggernaut. I thought that was dope. I don't know, man. I just thought it was all right, and I thought it was funny that they made it so self-referential, and they were so open with like ripping on Thanos and like the DCU and like all the Green Lantern shit. Like, I don't know. For me, it was like they finally were like, all right, let's consult the lawyers and see how much we could riff on, like legally. And I don't know. I thought that was. I don't know, man. I really thought it was good. I thought I had a really fun time.
Yeah, I mean, for me overall, I think it comes down, and I feel like most movies, I even talked to JT about this when it comes to most Star Wars movies, it comes down to the humor. Like, a humor can literally rip you out of the movie when you're, like, in it, and it could pull you into the movie when you're out of it. Like, humor makes or breaks a movie. I've said it multiple times on this podcast, and I feel like most of this humor is just, like he sticks it up the butt, and then it's like, oh, he's doing this, and it's like, oh no, it's gonna be explosion, and then he's gonna blow into a million pieces, and I'm like, I get it, I know. Like for me, it just I don't know, I didn't care for it as much as I wanted it to. It's okay, and I still love some things from it, like I told you, Cable, but I also wanted more from the supporting cast. What do you think of Cable and Domino, who were probably the 2 that we saw the most of?
Well, to me, Cable was a little flat. Again, like I wish.
That's the other thing. He's a little flat, right?
Yeah.
He's just kind of there. He's just the Terminator, the first Terminator.
Yeah,
where he's just a robot.
Yeah, and they do
and
a lot
cool, but it's just like, all right, he's just a robot.
You know what? Maybe also I appreciate this a little more too. I also appreciate how many movie references they made in this. Like,
they made a lot.
They were doing like it was.
And
almost
apparently,
like,
I read a comment somewhere that apparently when you see a movie like internationally, they made different jokes.
Oh, really?
From international movies. I might be wrong,
really?
but that's deep.
Yeah.
If you do that.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I mean, they were just going in. I mean, the Terminators, like they're literally taking images right out of Terminator, right out of. You know, the Basic Instinct thing with like the baby.
Oh yeah, that's another joke that fell so flat for
I thought
me.
that one was pretty funny.
I was in it for like 3 minutes, and then it went 10 minutes, and I was like, all right, this is 5 minutes too long.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wish they would have. I guess I wish they would have amped up his storyline and made it a real hard contrast.
Sure.
Like made him super, super, super serious and super, super, super like dark and. Like I don't know, it didn't feel like that.
He was more the straight man to a crazy man's joke.
Right. And I wish they would have just made him like the ultimate hardcore, like a real. I don't know. It felt like he, just didn't have a lot of time. You know what I mean? Domino had a little more time, and she was still, she had a little more personality,
she had
more flavor.
Yeah, I was gonna say she had the better action scenes too, but I kind of wanted to see more of her talk, or like more of her personality. I wish we could have seen more of her.
Yeah,
we saw a little bit of it.
I thought the biggest letdown for me was the fact that they allude to this whole thing of her being from the same orphanage as the kid, and she was like, "Oh, I was here too. Maybe this might like define destiny." I wish they really would have went that angle where I thought she was gonna shoot the guy at the end, or I thought she was gonna like do something. Like she's more like super chill. yeah. She's like, "Don't worry, Deadpool, you're gonna do great." Like, I thought like, that was fun, but like
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a few other people that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I do kind of wish like the director David Leitch. David Leitch. Okay, he directed the first John Wick and
Atomic Blonde.
And Atomic Blonde. Do you see Atomic Blonde?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Atomic Blonde.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay. Atomic Blonde.
I'm going to see it. I swear.
You're gonna see it. You gotta watch it. Dude,
yeah.
It has one of the best fight sequences I've ever seen on movies.
Yeah.
There's this whole like 10 minutes. That's like one take. That starts off as like a fist fight to a gunfight to a car chase, right?
Shout out to 8711. So I told you my brother has a stunt company. He knows those guys and he works with those guys sometimes. But yeah, man, those guys are 8711. They're crazy.
8711. That's the name of it. They deserve a fucking Oscar.
The Emma Fife thing that when she went there.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They deserve an Oscar because for that scene, like that is a long. And I just wish Deadpool 2 would have had like an action scene like that powerful. You know what I mean?
You're totally right. If that was in the movie, it would have pulled people in a little more.
Or at least like I don't know. I was thinking the first John Wick 2 when John Wick is like crawling through the little club and then like he starts shooting and they run through the entire like if they had an action scene like that, like I don't know, that to me was like the biggest disappointment. It would have really,
even John Wick 2, man. John Wick 2 had some
John Wick 2, yeah.
Dope action scenes.
I told you I saw John Wick 2 like 8 months early, right? Like
oh really?
Yeah. I shot it when like they were literally still shooting when I saw it. Like
that's crazy.
Yeah. The entire part where like the house was blowing up, like in John Wick 2, they literally just had like storyboards and they're like to be filmed later. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, John Wick 2 has some crazy action, but you're right. I wish it could have had some pretty genre-defying action. Yeah. Let's finish up with some other characters. Juggernaut was in there. I saw him coming a mile away. He was just a throwaway, kind of. Yeah. He was just supposed to be.
It's cool seeing like a comic accurate.
Sure. I mean, he's a big CGI monster.
Yeah.
And it's funny, man. I'm gonna say something right now too. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I wanted to see way more of her.
Like she was in it a good amount.
She was in 2 scenes.
She was like in 4 scenes.
No, man. Like I don't know. I feel like she even did more in the first one. I loved her in the first one. And I said something super controversial I on Twitter like a while ago.
Oh, really?
That my buddies got on my ass about. Because I immediately saw her in the first one and I was like, oh damn girl. And I said I had a crush on Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And she moved on. She got a girlfriend. Hey, that's man. another one for the lesbian count. Mantis, Ellen Page, all these girls.
Is it Mantis? I guess the character.
All these girls who like turn to like, I'm gonna go out with a girl instead. That's when you know. Crushes, but I wanted to see way more of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I don't know anything about Yukio, but I want to see more of Yukio.
She looked dope.
Because for me, I was just like, man, in a movie full of like crude jokes, Colossus and Yukio just like stand out. Good, sweetheart people who just want to do the right thing. Yeah. I love Colossus is my favorite part of this movie, and he's in it for 10 minutes. That's how much I love Colossus. Yeah. Like this version of Colossus. I love Colossus. I love how he's like genuinely a super nice guy. I love how he's Russian as hell. Like he's hella Russian. I love his fight with the Juggernaut when he's like, I'm gonna take you back to Mother Russia. And he's like spitting out his metal tooth. And I was like, hell yeah. I love Colossus. I love when he rescued him. He's my boy. I love this guy.
Yeah. For me, I love Yukio whenever they had that joke of like whenever Deadpool.
Yes. It's like, hi Yukio. Yeah. It's like, hey, wait. Yeah. I love it. I was like, Yukio.
Hey, salute to Deadpool too for finally like, I know like all these like big blockbusters now are like, oh, we're gonna have a queer character or LGBTQ, and then they actually like acted on it. Sure. I guess so. I don't know if you saw the whole thing with like Solo. They're like, oh, Lando is officially a pansexual. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's cool if you say that. Like, show me in the fucking movie. Like, if you're gonna say it, like, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's my biggest
I've been saying that forever. I've always said that.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, this guy is actually half black.
Yeah.
This guy is actually kind of gay. It's like, you can't say that. You have to show it in the movie.
Just do it. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing with LeFou and Beauty and the Beast and the Valkyrie with Thor Ragnarok. You know, I don't know. That's a little annoying. But Deadpool 2 acted on it. Yeah. So good for them on that.
That joke was kind of funny too. When it's like, hey, stop judging me. She's like, whoa, I'm not Fox and Friends. Chill, girl. Yeah. I was like, the Jared Kushner one killed me.
That was funny. Yeah.
Because it actually kind of looked like Jared Kushner. That's why it was funny. That joke killed me. But yeah, shout out to Yukio. I just want to see more of Yukio, man. I want to see more of Negasonic and her. And obviously Colossus, who's my favorite.
They're looking like all a nice X-Force team right there, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, considering that we lost everyone else, let's see
might
it.
Be
yeah, but Peter's probably not going to do much. Still, shout out to Peter for making it. even though he didn't make it.
Have you seen the whole Twitter account for Peter W, by the way? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
Yeah, there's a whole Twitter account for Peter W, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's amazing. It was actually a funny story. That's why I thought Peter W was going to be like a bigger part in this movie. Because they did this whole thing on Deadpool's Twitter, because Deadpool only used to follow one person, which was Hello Kitty. And he was like, if I'll pick a random tweet and then I'll like choose it as my follower. They ended up picking the Peter W account. And then the very next trailer, that's when they introduced him. It was like, oh, I'm Peter W. Or some shit like that.
That's crazy.
That was like one of the smaller like marketing methods.
That's hysterical.
That they put in. So I thought he was gonna be a big part only because they went that far with it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's finish up by saying the mid-credit scene. What do you think of the mid-credit scene? There's a few of them. So the mid-credit scene starts out with going back to X-Men Origins. To the original one.
Perfect. That's a perfect.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That was pretty great.
Is there a post-credit scene?
No, there's no. It's mid-credit because I mean, post-credit, mid-credit.
Okay.
Same thing, not same thing. It's not, but it basically means after the first part of the credits, but in the middle of it. It's what we saw in the middle.
Right.
That one was pretty funny. The other one we saw was him. No, the first one we saw, I'm sorry, was him saving Vanessa. Is that her name, Vanessa? No, her name is. Oops. Marina Broccarina's character,
Vanessa,
his girlfriend.
Vanessa.
That's the first one we see, which basically...
Oh, he goes back in time and saves her.
Goes back in time and saves her, which my buddy and I was like, did he just basically take away his motivation for the whole movie? Did the whole movie not exist? We were doing like the whole time travel thing. And I was like, let's just not think about it. It's a Deadpool movie. So that's the first one. Then he went to X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was funny.
That was my...
That was your favorite?
Yeah. The X-Men,
the Green Lantern one,
the Green Lantern one. Okay, that's a tough one actually. Yeah. I thought the shock value was just too good for the X-Men one. I was like, damn, they really went there. But I don't know. To me, the Green Lantern one probably made me laugh harder.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just so random.
It was pretty great. And then obviously I think the Green Lantern one was the last one, but the previous one was Peter, and he's like, Peter, just go home, go home, Peter. So Peter lives. Hashtag Peter lives. So those were all the mid-credit scenes. I thought they were all pretty funny.
Like, they're hilarious.
I thought those jokes landed more than the rest of the jokes in the movie, in my opinion, obviously. But yeah, I thought they were super freaking funny, right. And I thought the Green Lantern one was pretty bold.
That was amazing.
It was pretty bold.
That was crazy. And
I think it's even more bold than the X-Men Origins, because even X-Men Origins is such a throwaway.
I guess that's true. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know why, but like the whole like using the old footage and like reworking it, to me that was just like crazy. You know what I mean? Like
that's pretty true.
It's so funny knowing like probably the executives who like produced that shit are like getting just ripped on. Yeah, I don't know. Did you see Warner Brothers like actually tweeted at Ryan Reynolds
this weekend? I saw that. Yeah, it's like, we want the ring back or something. Is that what they said?
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. Yeah, because that movie cost a lot of money, man.
Yeah,
people forget that's like a $300 million movie, man.
Yeah.
Ooh. Let's finish up with final thoughts and final score, Mr. RB3.
Okay. Score this. Okay, we're scoring this like out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We scored Infinity War, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah, because you wanted it. I didn't want to score it.
Oh, you didn't want to score it. Okay, so this time we're scoring it. Probably gonna be like.
I put you on the spot, bro.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I like how you're like, man, this guy put me on the spot. I mean, I didn't want to do this, but I guess I'll do it. It's not that I'm gonna kill you afterwards, but yeah.
You're safe. I'm gonna go 7.2 out of this one. So probably around the same. I would give the first Deadpool. Slightly better than Infinity War for me. I swear.
Man, I swear, no matter what I say for score, people are gonna kill me.
Yeah.
But I want to give it. Man, this movie had me for a bit, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10, which is pretty solid.
So below Infinity War.
Oh yeah, that's way below Infinity War. Okay. Right. Way below Infinity War, because I love Infinity
I'm the
War.
only one who doesn't like Infinity War, apparently. So,
yeah, for me, I like the first half of the movie. I love Colossus. I want to see more of him. But for me, most of these jokes, most of them don't land. Again, the James Bond, the mid-credit scene, and several the X-Men jokes were funny. When he's rolling around in the wheelchair, it's funny. Like that kind of stuff.
The baby
cool.
bottom, like when he had the baby. Oh, you said that went on too long.
No, that was funny, but it just went on too.
Yeah.
Either way, guys, those are our thoughts on Deadpool 2. Leave us your thoughts on Deadpool 2. Who's your favorite character? If you say Yukio, I'll give you extra points. But either way, guys, let us know about your thoughts. Please be civil. Please be nice. Please be respectful, just like Deadpool would want you to be. Wow. Which is not true. Yeah. Let's move on to Ron Howard, guys.
A full 50 minutes into the
Hey,
show.
man, more like a couple minutes. So we're going to do Ron Howard a little bit different, guys. I'm going to put RB3 on the spot with some speed round questions. Starting with, what is Ron Howard's favorite? No, I'm kidding. We're going to be talking about Ron Howard's themes and filmographies as a whole, generally. But we're going to be highlighting our favorite movies. We want to talk about your favorite movies as well, so let us know in the comments down below. But we're going to highlight our favorite movies and the ones that we feel stand out the most when it comes to his career, because his career spans a very long time, and we feel like it is more appropriate for us to give us our opinions and our knowledge based on movies that we feel more passionate about. So that's what we're going to do.
That we've actually seen.
Correct. But I want to start out with a fun new question, Mr. RB3, and I'm going to put you on the spot, so get ready.
Oh, no.
Get those fists up, gloves up. What is your first experience watching a Ron Howard movie? Do you remember, and what movie was it?
A Ron Howard movie. Now, this is interesting because probably technically speaking, it was probably watching Cinderella Man in high school. Yeah.
It's so crazy. I forget. RB3 is a child.
Hey,
Use a child.
I'm about to be 21 next month, by the way.
That's a child.
21. I'm about to turn 21. But I don't know. So that was probably my earliest. But actually, you know what? I guess How the Grinch Stole Christmas probably is actually really the official. I remember seeing that movie, not in theaters, but like on home video a lot.
Okay. This doesn't mean
I didn't know that was that's technically one Ron Howard movie. So yeah.
Yeah, as far as when I mean the first, you don't have to see it fully. Just your first time not fully. I'm sorry, but the first time you experienced a Ron Howard movie. It could be a partial. It could be your parents. So your parents watching the movie. So it doesn't have to be sitting down in theater watching a movie.
It was probably Grinch. But then I saw Cinderella Man. It was probably the first time I knew like, oh, this is a movie of like this director, I guess. Mainly because we had watched Cinderella Man, like I guess we're talking about Depression or whatever, Depression era, and then that movie takes place during that time, so it was like, oh, this is a boxing movie that movie I watched probably in middle school. But then of course Apollo 13 is another one that you get exposed to early on too. So yeah, but yeah.
What were your thoughts on Grinch Stole Christmas?
Grinch, I mean, like I haven't really watched it since I was a kid.
Yeah, first time thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like I thought it was cool. So I was a big fan of the animated, the 30-minute special that air on TV. So then like it was like a longer version of that. As a kid, like I really liked it because it was like weird and like it felt like a Tim Burton movie almost to a certain extent. I think that's what a lot of people kind of criticized it for. It felt like too Tim Burton-y. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun as a kid. But I do remember remembering liking the animated version way more. But Jim Carrey is still like probably one of the best actors of all time. So he like embodied the whole like Grinch thing, and made it really work and really funny. And the dog was really funny in that movie too. But,
oh yeah, the dog.
Yeah,
that movie made a ton of money, right?
Oh, dude, it was one of the biggest
because I remember when that was coming out, that movie killed. It was everywhere.
Yeah,
it was like on Cops. It was on posters. It was everywhere. Mm-hmm. I remember it made like a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So
it's a classic, man. I mean, I feel like the property's a classic. Now they're making a CGI version with the people who do the
that's right,
the Minions.
They're doing the Benedict Cumberbatch one, right?
Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch is playing the Grinch.
Yeah.
Or is it Illumination Animation?
That's right.
Doing that.
It looks okay.
I don't know, man. I mean, again, like
I thought the trailer was.
Yeah. Hey, man. But apparently, I mean, Emma Fyffe was, our friend Emma Fyffe, friend of the show. She was telling me there was some fun Easter eggs for people who like work for like Universal Parks or the Universal Studios parks.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah. Like apparently, like the whole ringtone that opens the thing is like one of their theme songs or whatever. So
there you go, man.
Funny.
Hot scoops from
Emma Fyffe.
RB3 and Emma Fyffe chilling on. I don't know. RB3 and Emma Fyffe are chilling. Apparently.
Well, no, we weren't.
You guys aren't inviting me, bro.
It was probably at a Schmodown thing. Hey, man, but you were at the party on.
Oh yeah, I was at Rally's. Yeah. That was fun. That was fun. I talked to Emma Fyffe for a little bit and talked to everyone and scared them all away as soon as they saw me.
You saw David Griffin too.
Oh yeah, because it all connects, guys. It all connects. If you watched last week's episode, we gave a shout out to David Griffin. It came back fully because I saw David Griffin, guys, and I am now blessed I am now more. I'm glowing slightly more.
Okay.
I feel more relaxed, more at peace, more centered.
Right.
Because David Griffin shook my hand.
Hey, man, David Griffin's the man. So
Yeah, he's so like, bro. He was suave as hell at that party, bro.
Really?
He was wearing his suit thing that he always wears. He was chilling. He had a drink in his hand. He was like James Bonding it. He was like leaning back. He's like Griffin, David Griffin.
Hey, man.
Smelling the wine.
Hey, you can do that when you're on IGN, bro. Like,
Yo, bro, getting that IGN checks.
Yeah, that money. But yeah, no.
Yeah. So yeah. I did hang out with them. So unfortunately I didn't get any scoops like you did on Grinch.
But yeah, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, probably one of my earliest. But of course, that's not to discount Apollo 13 as well.
I was gonna say for me it might be Apollo 13. I think I remember watching part of Splash with my dad. I totally remember watching Splash. Mine was Splash. There we go, guys.
Splash.
Because that's Tom Hanks. And it's mainly much more comedic than anything else. But it's
like a mermaid movie, right?
Yeah, it's a mermaid movie, which was all the hype back in the 90s and 80s. But in the 90s, it was all the hype too. Shout out to Disney Channel original movie 13th Year, which is about a mermaid boy who joins the swim team and he doesn't know he's a mermaid. I saw that movie like 20 times.
Oh, shoot. I must have missed that one.
I've seen every single Disney Channel original movie, guys. This is real. But yeah, I remember watching this movie. She has like a fish call and like a TV store and she breaks all the TVs. She's in the tub. Yeah, I totally remember this movie, guys, in a very incongruent kind of way.
Yeah, and
this
is back when Tom Hanks was doing discombobulated. This is back when Tom Hanks was doing a lot of comedies too. So
yeah, and Ron Howard. Let's talk about Ron Howard, his running themes, because he can jump from different genres pretty well.
We start off as an actor in the Andy Griffith Show. So
correct, and that's.
I think that shapes a lot of his humor.
That's right. I feel like. What do you feel like his defining directing genre is? Is it comedy? Is it drama? What is it? What do you think it is?
Well, I think nowadays it's definitely drama. I think early on in his career there was more comedy-centric stuff. Of course, like Grand Theft Auto and Splash and some of the earlier films were more comedic leaning. And he does have some comedic splashes here and there. First Ron Howard movie I saw in theaters was The Dilemma. That was Vince Vaughn and one of the Wilson brothers. But the one where they are and Channing Tatum's in it too. I can't remember the exact plot of it.
Is it him like finding his daughter or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Chris Pratt's in it too, right?
I don't know. Is he? I don't know, but
I thought I saw this movie.
But it's a funny little. It's not that great, but it's pretty nice little comedy. Kevin James, that's right. And they play and they make like cars. They make like cars that are initially gas and they're trying to make them electric.
Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong movie. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Which movie are you thinking of?
I forget, but Vince Vaughn is in it, and he's.
Like, I know which one you're talking about. With the babies, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jennifer Connelly's.
Jennifer Connelly's a
recurring actress. And Ron Howard likes Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame him.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
But that's more of an example of a modern Ron Howard comedy too, and of course he uses comedy a lot in Arrested Development to show that.
I think he. What do you think he prefers? I mean, obviously we can't get inside his brain, but I think he prefers making comedies, in my opinion. Obviously he's known more for dramas, mainly because of the critical acclaim that he gets for the dramas, because of movies like Apollo 13, Like a Beautiful Mind,
Frost Nixon.
These movies are like, Academy level movies, but at the same time, I feel like you said with the Andy Griffith Show, is it the Andy Griffith Show?
That's the show that he started acting as a kid, as a child. Yeah.
He kind of developed a taste for humor, that might be. Do you feel like the humor still keeps up, or do you feel like it's outdated?
Well, I feel like, I definitely feel like it's more modernized. I mean, definitely, I'm not the most fulfilled watcher of Arrested Development, but that's the show that he produces, obviously, and acts in as the narrator, and he directed a couple episodes of it. And I think that show is something that's very a old school kind of comedy, but like presented in like a postmodern kind of way, kind of self-referential, kind of breaks the fourth wall in its own kind of way, but also very high level and studious to a certain extent. So I think that's where a lot of his humor tastes kind of lie in that kind of genre, and I think he and of course he acted in TV. He acts in a lot of TV and directs some television.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Ron Howard, which is funny, and I know this is full disclosure, but it's funny because every time my dad sees Ron Howard, like at an award show or like watching the Oscars or something, he's always like, that's Richie from Happy Days. He always says that. Happy Days for me is the one that a lot of people know him the most from. And funny enough, and obviously he's no more as a director, but as far as his acting, I feel like his role on Happy Days was significant. Whether it was long-lived or not, it was very significant for a lot of people. So that's another kind of thing that deals back to humor, that deals back to different genres that he can kind of dive into.
Right.
But I feel like that's a very significant part of his career, considering how big that show got. I mean, that show is huge. So I think that's a big role into playing with his directing and his comedy directing.
Yeah, and of course, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is also like a family comedy. And yeah, I mean, he's at TV's like a mixture of comedy,
that's right,
comedy
TV
genre, kind of stuff. So again, he has a very interesting kind of dances with comedy and drama within his filmography, but it's a little bit of balance of both. But I also feel like his dramas also have a lot of funny moments in them as well, and I think that's what keeps them on pace and keeps them fire.
Yeah, obviously, Parenthood is another one of his comedies that people recognize and people remember.
Yeah, that's a comic dramedy too, I feel like.
That's a good point.
But yeah, pretty much a comedy, and definitely, and even went on to inspire that NBC show, right? Parenthood.
That's right.
Now I gotta be honest, I've never seen the original movie that he directed, but I have seen like the first season of that show.
Interesting.
Which is pretty decent. It was kind of like This Is Us before I guess This Was Us was.
Before This Is Us was us.
Yeah,
with us.
Was with us. Yeah. But yeah, no, this one. I mean, definitely he adds like a flavor and kind of a style to what makes comedy. And I feel like his comedy comes from a very humanistic place too. So,
what do you think about Willow?
I've never. Honestly,
come on, man! This is a George Lucas movie, bro.
Well, speaking of George Lucas,
you want to break the news now?
Hey,
do it, break it.
Next week we are in celebration of Solo. We are doing a Solo spoiler review and the meaning of George Lucas.
George Lucas, guys.
We will be breaking down Indiana Jones, Star Wars films, of course. Willow, apparently now Howard the Duck. It's all in there. It's all in there.
George Lucas, man. That guy's a legend.
Yeah.
Legend. Shout out to George. But anyways, Willow, man, this is from the mind of the genius known as George Lucas. No interest in Willow?
I mean, I've never seen it. So.
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on.
We'll be watching it for next week's show, though. Next week's episode of George Lucas.
What the thing about Ron Howard with George is the fact that it's truly friendship. At the end of the day, it's me and you jumping off making movies,
right.
where you have to trust the person you're working with, and he trusts George on a creative level.
Yeah, and of course, that even goes back to when they first worked together on American Graffiti, another George Lucas picture, right? And the one that put George Lucas on the map. Ron Howard starred in it,
Yeah.
So they've been buddy since back in, and of course back in the 70s, a lot of these people were coming up together in the circuit of Hollywood, like Spielberg, Lucas, Brian De Palma, Scorsese, Ron Howard, all of these guys.
It's Coppola.
Coppola's in there as well. Yeah. So a lot of these.
I highly recommend watching the Spielberg documentary on HBO that talks about that too. Remember that? Because they really just literally talk about what you're saying, that they all hanged out together and watched each other's movies and gave each other notes. Every single one of those legendary directors. I would freak out, but that's apparently what it was, which is kind of interesting because Hollywood, back in the day, the giants that we see now were just buddies hanging out making movies,
right.
Trying to one-up each other in a competitive race to make the biggest, best movie ever. And now they each have their own companies.
right.
And they're hiring other directors.
Yeah, directors ever.
So yeah, I highly recommend watching that Spielberg documentary. But Ron Howard is a part of that Lucas kind of circle because he's worked with him on a few movies. whether you said acting, like you said, or even writing Willow, which Ron Howard directed. And I feel like, funny enough, we see so many years later, now in 2018, how he's taken the visions of Lucas in Star Wars and redid, or whatever he did to Lord and Miller's version, to make a Star Wars movie. And now Ron Howard is part of that universe, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. I saw them hanging around. I saw the red carpet, or a little bit of it, and I saw them hanging around each other and like saying what's up, because George is very he's very like closed off from the new trilogies, and he's closed off from the new Lucasfilm. He's very much not, I don't feel like he's consulted. Let's just say that.
Right. I mean, I don't know if Disney's asking for his help anymore.
No.
You know,
and I think they directly asked Kathleen if I remember an interview I watched, they said, you know, this, do you ever ask George? And she's like, no. She straight up said no, which is kind of funny. And she's like, no, you know, he talks to me sometimes, and he like says some things, but I usually just
right.
She didn't say ignore it, but she basically said ignore it.
Yeah. You know, Ron Howard was supposed to direct the prequels.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's all in that book. The big like Star Wars book, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe.
Oh, nice.
And they kind of talk about that in that book, how he was
interesting
and talks to direct. Right, I don't know if it was all the prequels or just one of them, but
how do you feel like that would have been like?
They probably would have been a lot better, honestly.
Even with the Lucas script.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, he would have probably seen it. I mean, we can't discount how much of an actor's director he is. Because he's coming from the world of acting and stuff like that.
That's such a good point.
And all of the movies that he directs, whether they're good or not, all have like amazing performances. So I feel like my biggest problem with the prequels, at least, were like the acting and the writing, of course. But I feel like that would have shaped up a little bit better for. It's
funny. I actually like the writing in the prequels, and I know that's. I mean, obviously the humor is terrible, but everything else in the prequels, I've made it very clear how much I enjoy the prequels, and I love the prequels, mainly on a nostalgia level, but also on an ambitious level for George. We'll talk about that more, obviously, when we get into his episode. But yeah, it's interesting to see how Ron has developed that friendship into different types of movies, and to what we see now with Solo. Let's talk about some of his successful dramas that gave him some attention. Let's talk about Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Now, tell me you've seen Apollo 13.
Yes, I have seen Apollo 13.
Yes. What do you think about Apollo 13?
That's probably one of the best like astronaut films we're ever gonna see. Like, and you know, it's the real life telling of how, you know, the Apollo 13 ship got off in the air, like the kind of impossible risks that were kind of taken there. And I don't know, I really enjoyed this film because it's Tom Hanks being super compelling as like this captain, this leader who has to kind of take ship as like they're kind of stranded in space. And I don't know, it's very uniting in this field. It kind of shows the kind of ideological differences that a lot of people can have in within a crew, within a unit, within like an astronaut unit, how their kind of perspectives shape their decision making. And we ultimately see like the Tom Hanks character is more like logical, right? Like he's more of like, we have to like do this by hand, and like they're writing out math problems and stuff like that, trying to figure out what's happening, you know? So I don't know, to me it was very, and I also love that Ron Howard also highlights a lot of math in his films. We're going to talk about Beautiful Mind as well, but you know, math, I guess, I don't know, as somebody who like back in high school, I used to study a lot of math, you know, of course, I mean, everybody studied math, but like for me, I was like, that was like kind of.
You were into it.
I was into it, yeah, and like, but there was never movies that like accurately represented like the kind of like problem solving that goes into it, I guess.
What do you think of the what was it called? The one with Taraji P. Henson and
Hidden Figures? Hidden Figures. Yeah, Hidden Figures is dope. Hidden Figures is really good. And I think, you know, I mean that one was cool because it was the math stuff without like the actual full blown scale rockets and stuff like that. But this movie, there was a lot more at stake. Of course, like Kevin Bacon's also part of the cast.
Yeah, this is a kind of like a who's who cast. I mean, it has Bill Paxton, Ed Harris. Obviously, we see these reoccurring actors work with Ron Howard quite a bit. And that's something that he likes to do. He likes to work with, I mean, obviously Tom Hanks. He's worked with Tom Hanks on several movies, but obviously Ed Harris, who's also in A Beautiful Mind, and these actors that keep coming up into his movies. But like you said before, he's an actor's director, and he gets these kind of performances that make legendary movies like Apollo 13. So what do you think specifically about the kind of performances that this movie delivers, even from like when did this come out? 95, right? Because this is 1995. Tom Hanks.
This is like the hot streak, right?
Yeah,
like, if I'm continuing. And
this is Tom Hanks when he's like taking people out.
yeah. I mean this. I don't know if he won an Oscar for this part, but he was at least nominated. I know that for sure. But he just came off of winning 2 back-to-back from Philadelphia and then from Forrest Gump. So then this would have been, I think there's like his 3rd nomination in a row or something like that. If he was nominated, I'm not sure. But like, even still, like setting up a kind of cast like this, you don't get like a cast for a big budget like kind of thriller, because this is kind of a thriller, but it's more of a biopic thriller in and of itself. But the subject material is like very important to kind of nail, and I think a lot of the actors in this movie and like did a lot of research and like getting like the accurate kind of voices and like character personalities of like the real life people. And I think that's pretty crucial and pretty awesome for like basing this off of reality and paying respect to the material. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, it's interesting to talk about stuff like space in a very realistic type of way, because obviously the stuff we see now in space is very much far-fetched, and it's
like
more
gravity.
It's
or
more
like
yeah
that,
it's more it's much more fantastical than anything else. It's more sci-fi than it is science based.
Right.
It's more science fiction based.
Yeah.
Or
this was science nonfiction. If you really
science, which is interesting because you get to explore something real, which is much more powerful and compelling if you really think about that, for sure. I was just checking, what year was Forrest Gump? I forgot.
1994.
Got it.
Same year as the Palme d'Or winner, Pulp Fiction.
That's right. Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And The Lion King, and what's the other 1994? Oh, Shawshank Redemption.
Let's talk about, speaking of math, let's unless you had something else to say.
No, that's it.
Let's talk about A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
This one came out in 2001. 2001. This came out after How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which came out in 2000, I believe. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
A Beautiful Mind. Speaking of math, Mr. RB3, what are your thoughts? This movie's long.
Yeah.
I've rewatched this one too, guys. So I've recently rewatched it. It's longer than I remember.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so I really wanted to rewatch it again. But it's an interesting, very interesting movie because it deals with, obviously we don't find out until much later in the movie, but mental health.
Yeah.
And how circuits in your brain can seem to be going in a genius type of way and can literally backfire into the opposite kind of way, which is the whole point of the movie, right? It's the idea of like a beautiful mind,
right.
a guy who's a genius, and yet his mind is completely lost, and yet it's completely lost in a brilliant kind of way.
Right. What his schizophrenia helps him compute better, like see the angles in math that like aren't necessarily seeable. And I think they highlight the kind of delusions that he has early on when they're in a bar, and he kind of begins to see a solution to his problem through imagining situations and scenarios with meeting that girl in the bar. So it's very interesting that his mental illness is directly connected to what makes him so brilliant and so special. But then it also touches on mental illness too, and especially back in, I think this movie takes place in like the 1960s, 70s, 50s. Okay, but like how they treat it.
At least it starts out in the 50s.
Starts in the 50s, yeah, and then it goes on.
Because it's 53, it starts out,
right,
and then it keeps going maybe in the 60s.
Goes on, and I just thought it was interesting how they portray like mental health treatment in this movie, right? Like they were literally putting him like electric shock therapy, and like how dated the mental illness practices are like back in that time, and what they perceived as like schizophrenia as like a way of like a disease. I also think it's very interesting how they address how the medication to address mental illness is really just so mind-numbing that he can't even do anything. He can't do the math that he's been aspiring to do all of his life, that he's been trying to work on. So it's tougher for him to work, It
really is a testament to, I feel personally, to the people who work with these patients. I can't, like nowadays, I mean, I can't imagine the type of level of not only intelligence but empathy mainly that you have to have when dealing with mental health patients and people who are going through, whether it be high levels of schizophrenia, low levels of schizophrenia, whether it be bipolar, whether it be anything. Therapy helps, and I feel like people who do that you deserve a huge round of applause, because that's you're doing the Lord's work. No, for real, because it's very powerful. It's very powerful to be doing that stuff. So it's an interesting point to see that when you see these, especially Jennifer Connelly's character, when you see her kind of trying to deal with this situation. It goes back to my reaction to The Theory of Everything. Because I remember watching The Theory of Everything, which is the Stephen Hawking's movie with Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones. Felicity Jones. It's like throughout the movie, you feel this awful discomfort towards Stephen Hawking's, because you're like, shit, man, it's got to be awful. You're a genius, but your body's giving up on itself. But at the same time, you see the perspective of Felicity Jones as a wife dealing with that, and how awful that is for her too. And you see that with Jennifer Connelly's character in this movie, when she's dealing with her baby, and it's like it's almost a horror movie from her. That scene is like a horror scene. It's literally like, even the score is like da, 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 da. Like it's a horror movie scene for her, because she doesn't know what to do, because she loves this person, but he's like putting her life, her child's life, everyone's life around her area at risk. So she doesn't know how to react to it. It's a interesting perspective, dealing with, going back to Theory of Everything, how Felicity Jones deal with a genius who's suffering, and Jennifer Connelly who's dealing with a genius who's suffering. It's an interesting point of view when you see the wife's point of view, because all these men that get highlighted throughout history as being genius and great, you forget that their wives had to put up with a lot of shit. Right. And it's like, dude, props to them, bro. They deserve crowns, because they went through some shit to deal with that. But let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk about Russell Crowe's character, but going on Jennifer Connelly, her character, her introduction is very interesting in this movie. Because it's a student, and I'm literally rewatching this movie, and I'm like, I forgot about this. Jeez, bro, that's your student, bro. You can't hook up with a student. But it's like, man, I can't.
1950s, man.
Bro, but I can't blame the guy after you see it. It's like, oh my God, Jennifer Connelly. I forgot how gorgeous she is, and how like great she is as an actress too. Like she's great. What do you think of her in this movie?
She's great in this film, and she this is the film that she met Paul Bettany on, where they eventually ended up getting married.
I forgot. Hot scoops, bro. Hot scoop.
Hot scoops.
Paul Bettany. Shout out to Paul Bettany. I'm gonna talk about him later, but
But no, it's just and of course this is around the time where she also had performances in what was that, Darren Aronofsky?
That's right, Requiem for a Dream, which is another heartbreaking performance that she gives in that movie. She's great in that movie,
She had
too.
a hot streak like in the early 2000s, I feel like. And this is definitely one of them. She had won an Academy Award for this part in A Beautiful Mind. And it says as much. I mean, like you said, she has a lot of emotional weight to carry in this film, especially contrasting off of Russell Crowe playing John Nash. His character is going through so much, but you see the way it affects her life, her marriage, her wants and desires and all that kind of stuff, and like having to deal with somebody who's not just like dealing with mental illnesses, but also somebody who's so smart and has so many like idiocracies, like that she kind of has to deal with like on a regular basis too, right? Like,
let's talk about that, because Russell Crowe's character in John Nash, he doesn't know how to socialize, so he's antisocial, but he's also he has no filter, so he doesn't know how to filter social cues and social things. Which we see in the beginning of the movie when he talks to the girl and he's like, "Let me have intercourse with you," and she slaps him. But basically, it's a guy who's like, he doesn't really have friends because of the fact that, he doesn't know how to socialize with people. He doesn't know how to communicate in a socially applicable way. So it's the idea of a genius who's a genius in books, but not necessarily a genius in street smarts, which is like everything else when dealing with people, which, to be honest, I've always said is very important, because that's literally part of the world. If you want to be part of the world, whether you're a genius or not, if you want to connect to your genius, you have to somehow be able to connect to people. That's another thing from another movie, which I keep bringing up other movies, but Steve Jobs, which talks about that.
Oh yeah.
That was his genius. His genius wasn't necessarily the computer guy, but his genius was to connect the computer stuff to the rest of the people. And that's what made him a genius, which is so important. But with John Nash's character, he can't. And that's why he struggles through school, he struggles through life, and he struggles through meeting women. But Jennifer Connelly is the girl who's like, whatever, he's smart, I like him, and it accepts it basically. And it's an interesting point because, to be honest, I would. I don't care how smart you are if you're that much of a dick and you can't talk to people. I don't know if I can handle it. But you're right. She's not only handling the schizophrenia part, but she's trying to handle the fact that he's just an antisocial weirdo who doesn't know how to communicate. So that's another difficult thing too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And, kudos to Jennifer Connelly for playing that part so well because it's very nuanced and subtle in the way she's doing it. But, again, like contrasting off of the way Russell Crowe's acting in this film. I mean, he kind of really dives into like really like honing in a lot of like this character, right? From the voice to the kind of like nicks and crannies of like his facial expressions.
The accent,
West
Virginia, man.
Yeah.
Those accents.
So
shout out to our West Virginia fans.
Yeah, isn't or Mark Ellis is from the VA, like the original.
Yeah, Virginia. Yeah.
Only for why don't they have an East Virginia, man? I don't know.
What's
they got a East
okay.
Virginia, West Virginia. Yeah, that kind of died. It was like a joke in Deadpool too. I think he really hones in on what makes that character like tick. You know what I mean? And what like you kind of just see as much in his eyes as much as you see in like his voice and stuff like that.
And we were talking about Tom Hanks being on a hot streak before. This one was Russell Crowe on a hot streak. This is coming off Gladiator.
Yeah.
Because remember, Gladiator came out in 2000, and he got nominated for that too, I believe. I think, did he win? I don't know if he won.
I don't think he won for
that. But I remember at least he got nominated for it. And he was, obviously, Gladiator is one of my all-time, if not my all-time favorite movie. So I love that movie. I've seen it like a million times. Trust me, Ridley Scott's episode is going to be crazy. I don't even know. It's going to be a 4-parter, bro.
Oh, shit.
But for me, like, I love that movie. But yeah, this is Russell Crowe showing his, like, acting weight.
Yeah, and I think this was nominated. The year it came out, he was nominated for Best Actor in Leading Role. He was nominated against Denzel in Training Day. That one. And I think it's interesting. I think switcheroo, right? I think that's when they had. I think a lot of people thought like Denzel should have won the Oscar for Hurricane, but I think they gave it to Russell Crowe for another part. But then they gave. They gave Denzel the Oscar the year Russell Crowe and should have won it right for this one.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how they kind of switched that around. I think.
Interesting.
It's either for this movie or Gladiator. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, either way, like that's a tribute to like the hot streak that Russell Crowe was on during this time, and I think that's what really impacts this movie too, right? Is like how are you able to convince somebody that you're seeing delusions and people still be okay with that, right? That's a fine line to walk. But then Ron Howard, is kudos to Ron Howard for making this choice. When the original John Nash, he said in some interviews that his delusions aren't like visual, they're auditory. But like he in this movie, they make them visual just so the audience can understand that, like when he's talking to just random walls and shit, like he's not seeing that, like he's seeing fully realized people and fully realized characters in his own mind. So I think that's really powerful and important too. So
to the character, yeah, for sure. Finally, let's talk about Paul Bettany, my boy, my homie Paul. What's up, Vision? I love Paul Bettany, man, and I don't feel like he gets enough credit for being a dope actor. He's great in this role too, and obviously he's not necessarily a real character.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is what kind of put Paul and Jennifer together, which is interesting, man. All these Hollywood couples coming together, man.
Yeah.
Now we got she's the voice of what's her name, Karen. In Spider-Man
Homecoming, and Paul Bettany is Vision. It was funny. I saw Kevin Feige and John Favreau.
Yeah, you chill with this guy's hanging out with Kevin Feige,
no,
man.
I ain't chilling with Kevin Feige. He was at USC. They're doing a 10-year anniversary for Iron Man or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was telling this whole story about like how. Well, John Favreau was just saying this whole story of like, yeah, they literally got Paul Bettany for Jarvis just because like they were speaking on the phone. They're like, oh, if you record some lines in like half a day, like, and just send them, and we'll put them in the movie. And like literally it just ends up evolving to this fully blown out superhero part, which I just think is super fascinating. But yeah, no, it's just, that wasn't even, his whole part in Iron Man wasn't even like supposed to be like this big thing, like.
Yeah, but he's one of the best parts.
Yeah, he's the best part of the first, one of the best parts of the first Iron Man.
I talked about Friday. I freaking love Friday, bro. Friday's my girl. Shout out to Friday, my Irish AI girl. But she's obviously the new AI for Tony's suit. And obviously started with Jarvis, and now we got Karen, which is Jennifer Connelly. But they can have so much character just off of voice. I feel personally that it could be a character within itself. And it's so funny going into Age of Ultron too, because I remember talking to non-comic book fans talking to me about people like Age of Ultron, because they were like, oh, so it's like he's like Jarvis, but he's like not Jarvis, because he's like a new Jarvis, but he's like fully realized into like an actual robot, so he's Vision. And I'm like, yeah, this is some deep shit, bro. So for me, I love it. So I love that they gave him more of a role, and that's why he was actually one of my favorite parts in Infinity War.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah. Anyways, he gives a great performance in this movie as well, and he really stands out to me.
Him and Ed Harris playing both delusions.
That's right. Ed Harris is great too.
Yeah,
Ed Harris is always great though. Like he's almost like I watch Westworld, and he's great in that too.
Oh yeah,
he kills it in Westworld, man. Yeah, he kills it every episode.
So he kills. I mean, he's the Man in Black.
Yeah, so he literally kills it.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting that they kind of. It's kind of like a subplot, but the meaning of, right, like how they kind of this whole idea of like this Russian spy conspiracy to like like how that was kind of, and then this takes place in the 1950s during the McCarthyism, the hunt down of communism kind of thing. So of course it makes sense that his delusions are what parallels what's happening in real life. And that he thinks he seemingly convinces himself that he's this greater piece of like this large scale military operation, spy operation, right? So it's interesting how they kind of contrast that and show that.
Yeah, it's almost like your internal perception of the world suddenly becomes the world that you're convinced you're seeing, right? Because what you believe in on the inside is manifesting on the outside. In a vision type of way.
And what you're believing on the inside is influenced by all the media and press that's happening on the outside. I think that's a big theme throughout Ron Howard's filmography too. It's like the media, right? The TV, the things that people are watching, how what's around them are affecting these people, right? I think that's a big part. I mean, we're not really talking about the movie TV all that much, but like that's a big theme of that movie, right? Like just suddenly being followed around with cameras, how's that affect somebody? And of course, his other films we're going to talk about sometime down the line too. Frost Nixon is literally about a TV interview, right? And that's the whole setting and arena for it. So I feel like that's a big part of what Ron Howard is like consistently saying in his films is a critique on media. It's
always interesting to see the perception of media on a more susceptible mind. And it's crazy how that it can even work on John Nash, right? But what we're seeing now in this time is how the media can influence perception on two different sides, and how extremism has come about based on that. It's super interesting, and kind of was going to be my argument for Taxi Driver, which got turned into something it wasn't. Oh. But that was kind of going to be my argument, is how like even someone who's very much like, oh, I don't care about politics, I don't care, like people who don't care about, like people who say that, right? People say it's all the same. They're still influenced. Yeah. They still make decisions based off that. They still have grudges based off that. They still view women and people and as objects because of what certain sides are telling them. And it's kind of interesting to see people being influenced by that, which is a running theme in, like you said, Ron Howard's movies. Right. Any final thoughts on A Beautiful Mind before we jump into Cinderella Man?
Nah, I mean, that's it for me, essentially.
Let's jump into Cinderella Man, because I feel like this movie is a very interesting movie and a powerful one. And speaking of Russell Crowe, it's another Russell Crowe movie back when he's on his hot streak, another
Right.
Russell Crowe hot streak type of movie. And I love boxing movies. I'm a boxing fan. I'm a fight fan in general. I'm an MMA fan first and foremost. I am an MMA expert, a connoisseur. I've been following UFC since I was like 15, 14 years old. But I love boxing too. So obviously going into this movie, I saw it with my parents, funny enough, in theaters, which is funny enough because my parents don't see too many movies in theaters, especially back in that time. So what do you think about this movie, and especially rewatching this movie? If you rewatch it, if you didn't, it's fine. But what do you think about this movie and how it stands up nowadays?
Well, this to me is one of my favorite boxing films just of all time, and to me is super cool because it takes place in like this depression era type time. It really is it's a boxing film that's about boxing, but equally as much about the class disparagement amongst a lot of people, and how this Russell Crowe guy has to return to a life of boxing in order just to make ends meet. You know what I mean? How, and I think it's especially commentary on how low income people use sports and use outlets like boxing to try and get ahead, to try and get advantage, because putting their body at risk is what is going to put food on the table, you know what I mean, for their family. So that to me is probably one of the parts that stands out the most. To me that's why this movie carries so much weight, because it's this large analogy about class, but also this kind of internal metaphor for like getting past that old stage of your life, right? Like getting into the groove again, and like making and trying to regain and recapture what you once had. So this movie's super powerful to me.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it before, and I don't want to generalize, but I'm going to somewhat generalize. But boxing is somewhat of a sport that's kind of targeted towards people who are much more lower class. Mm-hmm. It's always been that way, literally since the 1930s, which is this movie is set in. It's always been a kind of sport that, people who are much more, like in Creed, when the guy says these guys are fighting for their lives, like these guys are fighting to put food on the table, man. You're rich. You don't need to fight. You don't need to fight. That's the whole running theme in Creed, because boxing is all about class. Like it always has been. It's always been a sport that's targeted towards people in the lower class. So it's interesting how this movie literally takes that when seemingly the entire nation is falling into the lower class with the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting movie on that sense as well. And also on the idea of using boxing as one giant metaphor, which is obviously all the Rocky films, as a way to show fighting for your life, fighting for literally fighting, right? Because we hear that term fighting as like, keep your chin up, man, you got it, kind of thing. But this one in an actual literal sense, when he's actually fighting to make ends meet, like you said before, and also fighting to get past this economic depression too. Right. I mean, right? That's part of it, is like people who, even nowadays, people who struggle with, finding a job and losing a job and trying to find another job. It's a struggle. Like it's scary and it's frustrating. Right. And I feel like that's what this movie's about. And it's relatable to so many people because of that. Because, there's so many people. I mean, who hasn't lost a job and who hasn't looked for a job and been frustrated because of it? So this movie deals with that in a much more real sense, and also on a family issue, right? Because he's fighting for his family, his wife, and he's trying to technically be the man of the house, right? And be the provider of the house, and make a living for everyone else around him.
Right. So trying to support the patriarchy. Yeah. And that's a big thing in this movie. And of course, this movie takes place in the 1930s. I think what makes boxing films so universal is one of the oldest sports in American history, and the reason that being is because it's one of the most accessible media coverage sports, right? Like there's only a lot of times with big sports like basketball, football, multiple teams, multiple players. So the reason why boxing kind of blew up in the 1910s, 20s, 30s is because it was easily projectable over the radio, right? You could just announce like two boxers fighting head to head. It's a sport that lends itself to color commentary. And I think that's even why it lasted all the way up until television, right? Because for TV, it's really only just one square arena with two boxers, pretty easy to follow. They literally identify by the color of their trunks, and it just and it's evenly lit, so it's real easy to shoot. But back in this movie, they portray a lot of like the radio coverage of it, right? Like the whole community listening to the radio. I think that's why boxing grew, like you said, in low income communities, because it was accessible to lower income folks. But also enjoyed by the higher income people who can afford to go to these matches, or when TV comes around, eventually can afford to like get a TV and watch these fights too. So it's pretty universal.
Yeah, economics and class has always been a part of boxing, and it continues to be. I highly recommend a Netflix documentary called Counterpunch, I believe. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen
but
it.
But it talks about how it's a negative portrayal of boxing, but to be honest, it should be, because boxing right now is kind of corrupt. In the way they treat their fighters and the way they set up matches. And it talks about how, it targets poor people, and then it says, hey, we'll pay you this much money, and it's like a check, and they're just so desperate for a check. If you fight this guy, and it's like some fucking number one contender, 30 and 0.
$10 million for their fight, and meanwhile you're not getting paid like.
And it's always like a complete mismatch.
Yeah.
Like every time you think you have a chance, it's a mismatch. And then it really, like, this documentary is very much targeted towards Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, trust me, it's interesting. I still recommend watching it, but they call it the Mayweather system, as far as like fighting like nobodies and paying them, and then Mayweather just keeps getting his record, because it's all about that it's all about that record being the undefeated record, because it's really powerful and important to say undefeated as like a resume builder for boxers.
Right.
So they always try to do that by mismatching people, and that's like the Mayweather system. Right. It's interesting, but it's got thoughts, but it's class and money has always been a part of boxing, because people need to make money, and for people who don't know, it's awful. Like, it's awful. Like, being a fighter is awful. Like, cutting weight is one of the most dangerous and awful, disgusting things you can do. Like, I've seen it close hand, and it's disturbing. Like, it's basically anorexia times 10. Anorexia with people on treadmills who haven't eaten in days, and they're trying to lose weight. It's pretty harsh. So on top of that, it all comes back on food and providing, right? Because you're trying to cut weight and make weight, and you're not eating, and you're training, so you're exhausted all the time. So yeah, it's pretty awful. So
that even goes further to the point of you see back in these days, like, people were literally dying in the ring, bro. Like, his opponent in this movie, Russell Crowe's like main fighter, he's like, yeah, I killed people in the ring, and he was like totally cool with it. Like, so it's like, yeah, the cutting the weight, like, just, I don't know, man, that shit is like. People,
because I already said I follow MMA. Let's just say people nowadays still, are close to death cutting weight. I'm not joking. Like, even recently, Khabib last year couldn't make weight, and he got taken to the emergency room trying to make weight. Same with Cyborg. Cyborg, for anyone who follows women's MMA, couldn't make weight, and she was almost killed herself. I'm not joking. Like, when you're running on no food for a week, and you're literally running on a treadmill, your brain's gonna go like, because it's like, you need food to live, and on top of that, you're running on a treadmill and lifting weights. It's disgusting. It's really awful. So it's one of the hardest sports ever to do, and it's targeted towards people who can't pay for their own food. So it's pretty tough. So I this movie hits on those notes on a very realistic kind of way, and in a very era-defining way, because this is the Great Depression, which is what everyone knows about in American history. So it's very powerful for that, too.
Yeah.
And a shout-out to Renee Zellweger, too, for this movie.
Yeah, Renee Zellweger, yeah. Hey, Renee Zellweger.
Oh, that's the name.
Zellweger.
I still think that's bullshit, but whatever. I talked to JT about that when I was at Movie Fights. I still think that's bullshit.
Hey, Renee Zellweger.
It's not exactly like James Dean or some shit, or Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You got to put like every letter in there. Come on, fam.
Hey.
Let's move on to the two movies that made this man a star. It's called The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, starring Tom Hanks.
And Inferno, too. There's an Inferno, too, right?
And Inferno, I guess.
That's the third one, right? The trilogy?
Yeah, you're right. Either way, guys, full disclosure, we've never seen these movies.
Neither of us have actually seen these.
We were going to see them, but unfortunately we didn't see the movies, and we're like, oh, I forgot about those movies.
Yeah, we looked at each other. Did you see Da Vinci Code?
It's like,
Did
no,
you
did you see Da Vinci Code? No. So
Yeah.
The Da Vinci Code, guys.
Hey,
Let us know what it's about in the comments down below.
Yeah.
This doesn't it have
Tom Hanks.
look, Paul's in it.
Bob Bettany, yeah, he's a part.
So it's like some sort of conspiracy that Jesus and Mary Magdalene, what is it? I don't know. The Vatican is like hiding.
I will say this: I grew up very religiously, so my parents forbid me from seeing.
Let's just say
from seeing this too.
the same thing for me, bro.
Really,
This movie was like, as church people. Let's talk about it. As church people, the church talked about this movie. I don't know about your church, but my church talked about it. I remember being back this time.
It was a big hit. It was based on the best-selling
2006.
novel.
I mean, the church literally talked about this movie's like trying to say this shit. It's trying to, bash Jesus. It's trying to make up lies. So I never saw it. You never saw it.
Never saw it.
Oops.
Yeah,
I know it's supposed to be a Ron Howard episode, but we never seen these movies.
And you know what? That's fucked up because these are probably like the 3 movies that have probably the most deeper meaning. Type shit. Religion.
We just lost all our audience.
Theories,
this would have been perfect for this episode.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it.
Hey, man,
we didn't do our homework. Our dog ate our homework, guys.
We might just do a separate episode.
We might, that'd be interesting.
Maybe, yeah.
Like RB3 and Ace's perspective on the Da Vinci Code, in
the
retrospect.
the whole series.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I heard the last one's not great.
I heard they're all bad. I mean, I heard they're all really bad. I
heard the same thing. I didn't want to say that, but
but hey, they
I mean, the Vatican. Everyone knows that the Vatican does some shit. So
yeah.
I mean, just watch Spotlight.
Oh yeah. Of course, Spotlight, yeah.
But I don't know about I don't know Jesus babies coming to life. I don't know. I don't know what the movie's about.
But speaking of conspiracy theories, I mean that's another thing that Ron Howard tackles, particularly in the movie Frost Nixon, right? Like, that's a heavy political thriller kind of.
I wouldn't say it's conspiracy necessarily, kind of.
It's fact. It's not conspiracy.
It's more fact.
yeah, but it's very much. It deals with the whole conspiracies and cover-ups that the Nixon administration were involved in. You know, the Watergate scandal, the cover-ups, all that stuff. And this movie really goes into all the prosecuting things that went wrong in Nixon's legacy. So
shout out to Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen's my boy.
Amazing.
He's my homie. I love Michael Sheen. I've loved him since the 2003 epic great movie known as Underworld, where he plays Lucius, the leader of the Lycans.
Oh man.
Shout out to Michael Sheen. No, for real, I love Michael Sheen. I think he's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Frost Nixon, man. This movie is very much about the media. It's about the presidency during this time. It's about this era of American politics, which is a very, talked about era because it was a very difficult time.
Very reflexive of what we're living in today.
That's very true.
Enough.
Very true.
As we're living this era of putting our politicians on trial for their foreign affairs. Now, I don't know if the mainstream media is necessarily prosecuting our president now for the right countries that he's in business with. I feel like it'll be much more efficient if we start looking at Trump's connections in Saudi Arabia, and some other countries.
Well, I mean, the whole Saudi thing too. I've been watching this show I highly recommend called Looming Tower. It's on Hulu, which is about the it's so good, dude. It's so freaking good. It's got what's his face, the guy from Newsroom, Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
It's about it's about Osama bin Laden, basically, and how the FBI tracked Osama since way back in the day.
Yeah.
And they were tracking every single step, and how they kind of just shit the bed when it came to 9/11. Unless you believe otherwise, RB3.
No.
But yeah, it's an interesting talk about that and how. But it's interesting because Saudi Arabia. I was thinking about Saudi Arabia and how Saudi has always been, because we have this turmoil in the Middle East that we've had forever. But Saudi has always been kind of on the American side.
They're allies because they give us a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying.
Oil, you know what I mean?
And it's crazy how they're always kind of dipping their hand in like Iranian and Iraq politics, and then dipping their hand in Syria and stuff, and then kind of going back to us. And it's interesting. Well, it's just very interesting. The Saudis, shout out to the Saudi fans out there. I love Saudi.
Well, there's literally a report that just came out that was like Saudi officials helped put Trump into the office. Like, let's get off this Russiagate people and let's just start talking about this shit.
I think you're gonna say let's get off this and start talking about this.
Oh, yeah, let's do that too.
Let's stop talking about Ron Howard.
Hey, Russiagate, Watergate is the Nixon.
I thought you were gonna talk about Russiagate.
No.
Anyways, I love Michael Sheen, but he gives a great performance in this movie. Playing I love how this movie talks about how he comes from this like kind of like variety show background. As it's Australian, right?
Well, he's British. He's British.
He's British in Australia. You're right.
Yeah. He has his newest show just started in Australia.
And it's funny how the perception of media personalities and faces that you see on the TV can be so powerful because they're telling you information and you buy that information because you believe that person as not just a face and a personality, but an actual person. And that can be from like Ryan Seacrest to like the guy from Fox News. What's his name?
Sean Hannity.
Sean Hannity. Like it could be anyone. It could be, it's the way you view that person, right? And it's interesting because that especially is true towards the older generation. And I don't want to throw older generation under the bus. I mean, even the younger generation too, but you trust these people to give you, whether it be opinions or whether it be information, like you trust them, and how you can take like a Ryan Seacrest type to talk about issues that are way above his pay grade with like a Watergate. Which is what Michael Sheen's character of David Frost kind of was. He was kind of like the Ryan Seacrest type dude. He was kind of like
a Jimmy Kimmel.
Hey,
Jimmy
how's
Fallon.
it going, guys? Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon's a better example. Like it's like, hey guys, what's up? And it's like he's gonna interview the president. Like,
right.
Like, can we get someone else?
Right.
Can we get Katie Couric maybe? But basically that's the perception of the media and the perception of what it goes back to. Keep it to movies or keep it to TV or keep it to sports. It goes back to that kind of ideology that we're seeing nowadays with other personalities and other actors and people who give their opinions and who give their thoughts on bigger issues that a lot of the people feel like you can't talk about that. That's not your job. You're Ryan Seacrest or you're Mario Lopez or you're an actor that I see or you're, Captain America or you're whoever the actor is, giving their opinions on heavy political, divisive, world-changing issues. And that's kind of what this movie is about in a general way, too, because it deals with, can we trust someone? And yes, we can when it comes to these issues. And why can we trust them? Because they're people and they live in this world, too. And if they're intelligent and they're smart, then they're able to give their opinion in a very logical way, and we can trust them in an interview type scenario.
Right. Yeah, and like you mentioned, these are themes that play outside of just like this kind of this time period and all this stuff. Like even today, we see like real like late night shows who. We hold our late night hosts responsible for when they do like interview presidents or presidential candidates and stuff like that, right? I mean, we there's that whole thing with Jimmy Fallon.
I was gonna say Jimmy Fallon, bro. I still haven't gotten over. I don't think I've forgiven Jimmy Fallon. I've never liked Jimmy Fallon, to be honest, but it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Like, bro, Jimmy, come on, bro, come on.
Can't be rubbing his head.
Come on, man.
That's crazy. So yeah, I mean, it definitely speaks to that, but that's why they thought he was the wrong choice because he was gonna say that even the Nixon administration believed that he was gonna it was gonna be softball questions, right? Like a profile personality piece, right? But he, the character David Frost hires some top investigators to help him out to start prepping for this.
Played by Sam Rockwell and
a couple other people. I can't remember their actors, but Sam Rockwell, yeah.
Oliver Platt is one of them.
Oliver Platt.
But yeah, these guys, they're basically researchers for Frost's character for the interview, prepping for the interview, and what type of interview it's going to be too, and how both sides of what this could be for the president or for anything, how both sides of an interview deal with prepping, right? Because your people talks to my people about what questions you're going to ask me, what type of questions you're going to ask me, where it's set, is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
What time it's going to premiere, how many interviews are there going to be, what line of questioning is it going to be, what kind of piece is it going to be. Like, there's so much, as someone who's worked behind the scenes, like there's so much behind narrating interviews. And what people don't know too, and I'm breaking Hollywood news for you because I'm sure you know, especially when it comes to reality TV, because I've worked for reality TV. It's all scripted.
It's all scripted.
It's like I've literally written lines for people. I have personally written lines for people, but how also in interviews, how you kind of go into an interview knowing that if I'm going to be interviewed by this press, like let's say MSNBC wants to do a piece on Robert Butler III's new movie. Like, you know what it's going to be, kind of. Or versus someone like Fox News is going to do a piece on Robert Butler III's comment on the Meaning of podcast where he called out Trump and Saudi. Like, you know what you're getting into, right? So you know the kind of questions and the kind of tone that you're going to get from the interviewer. That's the same thing with this movie, because it talks about the tone that you're going to get from a bubbly person like David Frost.
Right.
So it's super interesting because I love that whole prep mentality and the whole, like, if you don't stick to the script type of thing, we're going to call off this interview kind of thing.
Right.
Which is what Kevin Bacon's character plays, as he plays the military, super crazy press guy who trusts Nixon and who wants him to get a piece out of. That's why he agrees to the interview in general, is because, it's going to be a fluff piece, basically. It's going to be make Nixon look good.
Right.
That's not eventually what he gets, but it's kind of coming in both sides and seeing what both sides can get out of an interview. You want good press. Good press is literally like what people fight for. It's literally what Trump always talks about on his Twitter, because he sees how powerful it can be.
Right. And it's interesting, you think about, like we talk about the reporters and the investigators and the other side with the Kevin Bacon people, how each character kind of has their own like kind of corners, like behind them, backing them, and like teams and stuff like that. And, I think I was reading on IMDb trivia or something like that. Like Ron Howard said he considered this movie like a thinking man's boxing movie, like a Rocky in a sense, right? And I like that Rocky analogy because it really is like the more powerful figure in Nixon, right? Like he's the experienced fighter, he's the Carl Weathers, Apollo, whereas David Frost guy is like the Rocky figure, right? The underdog who kind of needs a lot of preparation and training to go into this. And of course he's doing, the character's doing other things. He's going to movie premieres, like not getting enough sleep before the interview. So you kind of, he's kind of softballing it a little bit to begin with. But it's also because you see Nixon as such a powerful character and his ability to like manipulate and to really get inside of his head before these interviews to kind of throw him off his game, right? So it's just fascinating how we see that whole journey and that whole arc and story and stuff like that. So
that's so true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's even true nowadays with interviews that we see nowadays too. But how it's like going back and forth and the idea of like, oh, it's like you're going to let him talk all this time? Like, no, you got to talk too. Or it's like, oh, you're going to let him step on you there? It's like, no, you got to hit him with this question. Or you got to hit him with a zinger. You got to hit him with like it's like, ooh, we got you. Like that, those ooh, we got yous are real.
Right.
And those actually help too. And it goes back to how two sides deal with each other too. Right. Did you see the interview with, this was a while back with, what's her name? The blonde girl who's super loud and who talks, and
Tommy
Lauren and the new Daily Show guy.
Oh, Trevor Noah.
Did you see that interview?
Yeah.
Because we saw it at work, and it's so interesting to see people talk about it and how like some people were like, probably me, was like, oh, he was too softball, bro. It's like, bro, you could have nailed her. You could have been like boom, 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 like right there. And it's like he chose not to, and it's like kind of it's dueling. Because you're dueling in a way, in a verbal fight. You're verbally communicating, but you don't want to come off as an asshole, but you also want to come off as a pushover. You don't want to come off as like a dick, but at the same time, you don't want to be like weak. So it's like it's all like perception and reality coming full head in an interview kind of thing. And when it's a two-side kind of interview too, when it's more like debate type interview. That's why presidential debates are so important. Because, I mean, literally that's what goes back to John F. Kennedy's presidential debate when it was televised. And then when it comes back to Nixon's debate, too, and he talks about it, too, when he was sweating on his lip.
Right.
And when people, little things can take away perception. And how verbal debates change from TV debates. And you don't want to look weak, but you don't want to look like a dick either, right? Which obviously wasn't the case for Trump's debate.
Right.
He wanted to look like a dick, and the more dick he was, like, it's better.
Well, I mean, but he was more. But that was, I mean, for the whole Trump thing, he got off because it was the only, like, he was the only politician who was like a straight talker, right? Like a straight.
Yeah,
shooter,
it's different.
Right?
Obviously,
so why,
I'm going off topic, guys. I apologize, but for me, it's interesting to see that because that's the dynamic you want to present in an interview, and especially with an interview dealing with illegal stuff that the president did in this movie. Right.
And of course, the characters are played by, like you said, Michael Sheen playing David Frost, and then
Lucien.
From
King of the Lycans.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding, guys.
Vampires.
Underworld.
One tab was just like Frost Nixon. He just clicks over immediately. It's Underworld.
Yo, shout out to Underworld.
And then,
shout out to Kate Beckinsale, Celine.
Kate Beckinsale, yeah.
It's literally one of my all-time favorite movies.
Underworld. Hey, man, we're always... Hey, man, vampires are a constant theme in this show. You talk about the meaning of... Do a meaning of episode on Andres Camber. Vampire's gonna be there.
Vampire's gonna be there, man.
But no, I think for this movie is funny how and of course Frank Langella is playing Richard Nixon. Now this movie was originally a stage play that happened on Broadway and won a bunch of Tonys. But then they adapted it into the movie, but kept the same two actors playing the parts.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. Jesus, man, I should know all this stuff. But
yeah. So it's just fascinating how. And this, is interesting when we see other like plays to cinema adaptations. Some really work. Some are just kind of stage plays. Aaron Sorkin's. Aaron Sorkin did for A Few Good Men.
Few Good Men.
Yeah, that we talked about was originally a stage play.
Fences with
Fences, Denzel, right?
Denzel.
But that's the difference, right? Like I feel like A Few Good Men is a little more cinematic, side, whereas Fences very much feels like a stage play. Movie, yeah.
That's so true.
And I think this one is kind of a good balance of both because you do get like those longer monologues, you do get like those extended conversations, but Ron Howard adds a real cinematic touch to it, right? The camera moves a lot, you get different angles, a lot of different locations, a lot of different characters, a lot, some montages and stuff like that. So I think this one's inherently a little more cinematic than I feel like a lot of other play to film adaptations, but it's interesting how this movie plays around with the whole idea of like the theater within the television set, right? And it also is like a meta commentary on. I mean, they cut to those different interviews, right, of people being interviewed throughout this movie. So it kind of makes it feel more of like a documentary, kind of more realistic kind of take to it too, like a docudrama, as well. I think even further than that, it does all of that so well that it feels material and it feels filmic and it feels cinematic, while also highlighting the theatricality in television in and of itself.
Because it is theatrics.
Right.
Essentially what you're doing is you're playing to an audience, and that's what theater is. You're playing to the audience. Let's finish up with the final two movies in his filmography. He's got a bunch of other things that he's done too. I mean, obviously he's done the Beatles documentary.
Beatles documentary is great on Hulu.
Which is very successful. It made it like people watched that. Like it got a lot of clicks or views or whatever.
And the Made in America documentary too. He did the concert film that was like a Jay-Z performance.
That's right.
Thing too.
But the two films were Rush and In the Heart of the Sea. Obviously, the ones that stands out to me is Rush.
Yeah, Rush, yeah.
I love Rush. It's actually one of my favorite Ron Howard movies because it's a movie that I was fully invested in versus the previous movies being something that I kind of dabbled in. Rush deals with, in my opinion, obviously I haven't seen it. I didn't rewatch it because I love this movie. I've seen it a lot of times. But it deals with the idea of obsession with athletics, but also with racing is so different than any other sport, right? But it's also dealing with the idea of media too, right? With personality.
Media,
with personality, dealing with someone like the character that Chris Hemsworth plays. I'll get his name in a second, but versus the character that Daniel Bruhl plays, being the idea of two people tackling being excellent, being the greatest at their sport, and yet being obsessed and great at their sports, but dealing with it in a very different type of way. It's the extrovert versus the introvert. It's the guy who wants to solely focus on his sport versus the guy who wants to solely focus on his sport, but also get them deals and also hang out with them girls and also politic and talk to people and get to know people, get sponsors, get people on board with his product. He's selling himself as a commodity, as a product.
Yeah, it's to pay for that alcohol addiction of his.
That's true. That's also true. Yeah, but it's what we're seeing now in athletics too. I mean, it's what we've seen in athletics for a long time. It's the Michael Jordan. It's the be on the Gatorade bottle. It's the all that stuff helps in your career quite a bit, and it's obviously it works hand in hand when you're a phenomenal athlete, right? You can never take away from the athlete who is in the spotlight and wants the spotlight if he's great. You can't take that spotlight away from him, right? That's the whole idea. Is like he's going to be the big personality type of guy as long as he's the best. And if he isn't the best, people will turn on him and they'll be like, oh, whatever, you suck now. But if he's great, and that's why he continues to strive to be great, versus Daniel Bruhl's character who's like, no, I need to focus solely on this. And this whole politic, media world isn't what I want to jump into. That's to me is essentially what the film is diving into, which I love. Yeah. Because I love sports.
Yeah, it's like the dueling ideology of like these two figures, right? Like how their rivalry kind of fuels each other even further than like the media hype up. And the media hype up of these two guys are big. That's kind of what like generates this whole thing too, right? But it's also egos, right? Their egos are so kind of both big and so. I mean, they're both very different, like you said, the introvert versus the extrovert, but like one ego is much bigger than the other one. So it's also another, like, it's interesting.
It's James Hunt and Niki Lauda.
Niki Lauda, and
which are two real life Formula One racers who were the kings of their sport back in the day. I think it's the 70s, is it? Yeah, 70s. But it's a phenomenal movie. I mean, the racing scenes are awesome too.
Racing scenes are amazing, and this is probably one of the more like different looking Ron Howard films. Like really,
that's a good point.
Has a very much like a August kind of glow to it. Like this warm,
it's like a 70s feel.
Yeah. It gets really get into that. Chris Hemsworth, probably his best performance I think he's ever delivered.
Chris Hemsworth, like a lot of people, I don't know who was talking about it on Twitter, but they were like best Chris. Chris Hemsworth is my best Chris.
Really?
Yep. My brother Thor is my brother Thor.
Yeah, he was great. He was great in this movie.
He's great, yeah.
And he added a lot, like you said, like the alcohol addiction that he deals with throughout this film is another like prevalent theme. But like they never like touch on it too hard. They just kind of illustrate it and kind of show you the background behind it. But this movie. Again, we're kind of talking about boxing, right? How that's more of like an individual kind of sport. Racing is kind of more of an individual thing too, right? It's more all about yourself. You're in that car alone. You may have a team to like help fix up stuff and everything, but it's really like a solo sport. And I think that's really the story and the journey that these characters go through.
And going back on that theme, similar to boxing, similar in a sense, but you're kind of putting your body on the line, right? Because a car crash will kill you. Like it won't just might kill you, it will freaking kill you, right? So anytime you get in a wreck, you could be like spinning around and thinking to yourself, I'm dead, right? Because I've been in a major car crash. I don't know if I've told you.
Oh, no, you never told me.
Yeah,
this.
I got a car crash in the freeway. Yeah, and I was spinning.
Oh, fuck.
So,
no way.
Yeah, so I literally had the flash before your eyes moment.
Oh, no.
And it's real.
Oh, fuck.
Because when you see cars, like, the thing that freaked me out was when I saw the cars zooming past me. Because I was like, one of those cars hits me, I'm dead. And I lost control of my car, and I'm just spinning. So I'm just like, I'm not spinning in a vertical sense. I'm spinning in a donut sense. Right. But I'm spinning like a top on the freeway. So obviously I'm freaking out.
Right.
But yeah, it really is like when you can't grab the wheel and you lose control and it's like you see cars zooming by. Like that's when you're like, one of those cars hits me, I'm dead.
Shit.
Like I'm dead.
Somebody hit you from the back or?
Huh?
How did somebody hit you from the back?
No, tire popped and then I hit the barricade.
Oh.
I went and then I bounced off and I started spinning. In the freeway.
Man.
Yeah, dude, it was
damn, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was very much terrifying. But it shows you that anytime you get in those crashes, these guys obviously know about them, and they don't want to die, but they're willing to take that risk. And especially Daniel Bruhl's character, right? When he comes back, when he gets in a horrifying accident, and those are the type of accidents when you're like, you know what, I'm good. I made a lot of money. I can live off sponsors. I'm injured, but he chooses not to because he's so obsessed with the sport itself. He loves racing, right? And that's the idea of the same thing with boxing. Why do you keep fighting? You don't need to. You made enough money. You're good. You can just live off sponsors. It's like that need to fight, even though your face is messed up. You got, freaking concussion issues with your head and your brain trauma, and yet you continue to fight. That's the idea too with Nicky Lauda, who is just so obsessed that even throughout horrifying accidents, he continues to go on. I mean, obviously, same with Hunt's character as well. Yeah, he chooses to continue going on as well. But I feel like especially they make it a point to talk about Lottie being like, "Bro, stop! right, you're gonna die."
Right, and what I love about this movie, they ultimately like show this whole rivalry, but they show you they're kind of on the same page for like a lot of stuff too, right? They kind of like agree with each other for the most part, and in the end, they end up becoming friends to a certain extent, right? Like. When they're talking about driving on that super dangerous trail, the second time, and everybody, they think about like not canceling the fight, but canceling the race. But they ultimately end up speaking on the same side on that, right? So it's very interesting how they kind of portray the split in this rivalry, but also like the dynamic of like being with each other, like not being with each other, but like standing in support for an ultimate morality standpoint.
It is interesting. It's interesting to deal with the idea of rivals and the idea of current rivals versus post rivals, right? To me, that's essentially what I get from it too, is the idea of like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. I hate you. But once you retire, oh, bro, what up? What you doing? Hey, you up? Like, you're chilling now, right? Because you don't care. Because I'm not trying to beat your ass every day. Right. Versus like Nikki and James, they're always heading head to head, but deep down on the inside, they're like, bro, after this is all done, I'm good. Like, you good? Yeah. I'm good. You good? All right, man.
And I think competitive rivalries always do that. I was thinking. I mean, I was watching. I don't know if you're. I'm sure you heard the Joe Budden podcast, right? Yeah. I was listening to most recent.
You
episode.
love Joe Budden, right?
Hey, man, he's my guy.
Hey, man. Shout out to Jesus and Mero, bro. What up?
Hey,
my Dominican brothers, too, my Dominican and Jamaican brother.
I was interested because they were talking about whether or not, like, what if celebrities like back in the days had like social media now? Like if Michael Jordan had a Twitter back in the day, like, would you just be him like yelling at people?
People forget Michael Jordan was an asshole.
He was like fighting people in the locker room.
People don't remember that. They're like, Michael, the great Michael Jordan, and he does like his pose. It's like, no, that boy was a dick.
Would he still be considered the greatest if he has to, or would he be considered more of the greatest? I mean, I feel like if we didn't have social media,
it is interesting, right? Because a lot of people, me, hated Kobe because of his kind of being like, yo, I'm the best, F you, screw you, I'm the best, screw you, give me the ball, screw you. Like, he was kind of a dick on the court, right? Like, I remember because I'm a Suns fan, I saw the games. He was a dick. And then same with LeBron, because my mom views LeBron, I told you, as like being a dick and be like, yo, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm LeBron James. And it's like, dude, chill. Michael Jordan was that times 10. He always talked about, like, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, screw you, give me the ball. Like, that was Michael. Like, Michael was... I mean, look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is, like, the perfect example of someone, and we've talked about Kevin a little bit, but he's the perfect example of someone who's not socially
right
he doesn't he's just not a social guy, and it's just like every time he talks you're like, man, you're kind of a dick. Like, what's your deal? So it is interesting. It is very interesting.
Funny. You just see, I don't know, man, I just think it's funny. You just see footage of like Michael Jordan just whooping people's ass in the locker room. Somebody posts on Instagram like,
it's like, is this your good example for my kids?
Right. Hey, but you go out there and you see him win games, people are gonna be like, yeah, that's why. I feel like that's the thing with like Kobe too. Like, after he retired, like, everybody's like, oh, like, everybody hated Kobe. I was a Lakers fan, so I love Kobe, but everybody hated Kobe. And I feel like after he retired, everybody's like, oh, Kobe.
Because when you retire, it's good. It's all good. It's water under the bridge. My thing too is like being a former competitive athlete. I got to a pretty high level eventually when I got to the collegiate level. But being a former competitive athlete, I really do feel like it's different when you, and I'm sure you understand it too, but because I kind of get upset when people get upset at athletes who say those things and athletes who kind of live it. Who are kind of like, yo, I'm the shit, I'm the best, and people don't get it. Like, you have to say that. Like, I was an individual sport too, because I was a swimmer, and when I was on the blocks, and it was like get ready, take your marks. Like, I was in my head thinking, I'm gonna kick your ass, bro, because you have to think that, otherwise you'll lose. Because if you're like, I'm okay, you literally, like, the other guy takes off and beats you. Right. Or if you're like, I'm gonna be humble, if you try to be humble, you're gonna lose.
You're gonna lose, yeah.
So especially with individual sports, but even in like sports like basketball, like if you play basketball, I'm sure you've played basketball. You can't play a sport like basketball and think, have the ball in your hand and shoot a ball and think to yourself, maybe. You have to be like, I'm the best, I'm the shit, let's go. Like, you have to say those things. Otherwise the ball won't go in. Like, it's a psychological thing. So when people say it outside and then the media gets mad, I'm just like, what'd you expect? These are professional athletes. They have to be kind of dicks. Like, I remember so much the freaking what's the guy from Seattle?
Richard Sherman. Yeah.
He's like, what you want? I'm the shit. And everyone was like, my God, Richard Sherman. He said he's the best. I mean, how dare he? He said Michael Crabtree was like, sorry. How dare he? And I'm like, what do you expect? You just interview a guy right after he makes
that was the best. The blog. That was the best post-game interview.
And everyone's like, oh my God, Richard Sherman. Like, and I was like, really? Like, I would have said the same thing. And I'm like a nice guy. Everyone thinks I'm a nice guy, but it's like, I would have said the same thing. I mean, like, I was with Richard. I was like, come on, let's go.
He's right. Like, fucking, he did get the shit smacked out of that ball. That's my favorite post-match interview. Shout out to Richard Sherman, Compton native as well. I feel like that's with
and he's going to San Francisco.
He's going to San Francisco.
It all comes full circle.
It all comes full circle. There you go. I think it's interesting. I think even beyond sports, right? Even like we're talking about these individual sports and these team sports. I think anything that's highly competitive kind of requires that level of overconfidence, right? I mean, Kanye talks about that a lot.
That's
like
true.
His earlier career, how he would make himself. He'll say a lot of shit like, "Oh, I'm the greatest. I'm the best." Like, even his first Grammy speech was like, "Oh yeah, this was a long time coming," or something like. This is literally for his first album he's ever made, because you have to tell yourself that in order to like compete, especially in things that are highly competitive, like sports and like media and like entertainment. And even in this movie, the competitiveness not only for the sport but for the spotlight too, right? And you even see James Hunt. He's dating Olivia Wilde's character, who is like a real life famous person, right? Like,
I think so. I think she's Susie Miller is the character's name.
I think she's a real life figure of some sort who was like actually really famous during that time. But yeah, it's just super she ended up like really dating like Richard Burton or something like that. But yeah, it's just fascinating how all of that plays into the kind of ego masculinity driven sport that is at the heart of this movie. So super fascinating.
Which is racing. It's all about like being at the high level, but also being perceived as great, being seen as great, being visualized everywhere, being on like you said, hanging out with movie stars and hanging out with people, but it's still being perceived as like nowadays it's still being perceived as doing all those things, but also, being like I'm the best, I'm the greatest, but also trying to turn it because you don't want your legacy to be too much of a dick too, because nowadays people are trying to avoid that.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
People try to avoid that. I mean, I was watching the conference finals, and they were talking about Allen Iverson and what's his legacy, right? Because AI used to be like...
he was the GOAT back in the day. Like,
AI was like next level. They were talking about it because of Kyle Korver, because Kyle Korver's been playing well. But it's one of those things, because Kyle used to play with AI, and when they interviewed him about AI, he was like, oh, AI, like, he was best dude ever. He was amazing. It was amazing playing with a player of that caliber. But it's also like his representation off the court. And what was his representation off the court, right? And how it's like
as a criminal.
And it's crazy how people back in the day were like, yo, don't be AI, don't be like, it was like a big thing. And it was crazy. But it's all about the perception of the media and being great, and how dealing with that greatness is a balance between perception and reality, right? Because you know you're the best and you can get away with this stuff as long as you can continue to be the best. So you want to continue to be the best so you can keep getting away with this stuff. And also the love of the sport, which is what Nicky Lauda shows and James Hunt, because he loves it. You gotta love it if you keep doing it at that level.
Right.
So that's why Rush is one of my favorite movies. And we're gonna finish with this, guys. It's a new segment. I'm making it up right now. It's called Rank Their Films.
Whoa, okay. Boom, very creative.
Boom.
Rank their films. Yeah. Let me put that right there.
It's gonna be this some creative shit, bro.
Yeah,
I just
man,
came up with
rank
it.
them. Yeah. Okay, so
Let's start up with top 3 Ron Howard films, Mr. RB3.
Okay, top three. Now
Top
this is
3.
interesting. Now
I'm gonna give you this list right here in front of you.
Now, this
so
is
you
a
can
long
see
list.
it.
A lot of films are on this list. Now, of course, I feel like this is, and again, we didn't mention some movies like Far and Away, Backdraft. Backdraft is one that I remember seeing as a kid, but that's not really gonna play into my list because I'm gonna put
Number 3.
Number three, I'm probably gonna put Rush. It's the newer one, and it's one that is pretty high up there in terms of Ron Howard's filmography. Number 2, I'll probably put Frost Nix. No, I'm sorry. Number 2, actually, I'm gonna switch that out. I'm sorry, Rush is not making the top 3, y'all. I'm sorry. It's not making the top 3, unfortunately. I'm gonna put number 3. Actually, I'm gonna make that one Frost Nixon. It's my number 3. Cinderella Man. I'm sorry. Apollo 13 is my number 2. Cinderella Man, my number 1.
Wow.
That's how I'm gonna. I love Cinderella Man. Crazily enough.
Interesting.
It's a great film.
You know what's it's for me? I'm gonna say right now, guys. I'm gonna give you my train of thought. It's between Cinderella Man, Frost Nixon, Rush, and Apollo 13 for me.
Yeah, a beautiful
and Da Vinci Code. I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah, Da Vinci Code's high up there.
Oh,
I was
no.
thinking about how the Grinch Stole Christmas. I was thinking where that place was gonna be. But
A Beautiful Mind, unfortunately, won't make my list. But I'm going to put at number 3. I'm going to say Frost Nixon. At number 2, I'm going to say Cinderella Man. And at number 1, honestly, especially talking about it again, and I love this movie so much. To me, it was one of my favorite movies that year. Rush.
Oh, Rush is your number 1. Okay. All right. Cool.
Chris Hemsworth. What up, homie?
Hey, man.
Shout out to my homie Thor, Odin's son.
Hey, he's a great fit. Hey, but that movie came out
2013.
Yeah. So it's pretty recent. So even though he directed Rush, one of your favorite movies of 2013, you're still not excited about him directing Solo?
No.
No. Okay.
Because of what it's become. It's become an amalgamation of Lord and Miller, of Lucasfilm, of Kathleen Kennedy, of the spin-off films, of so much stuff that for me it's like, I don't know. Will it be a Ron Howard film? Will it be a Kathleen Kennedy film? Will it be a Lawrence Kasdan film more than anything else?
Right.
I think it's going to be a Kasdan, Ron Howard mesh with like a little bit of Lord and Miller. And I don't know if that's going to be good or not. We'll see.
Right.
Tune in next week when we talk about George Lucas and our review of Solo, a Star Wars story, where we talk about it at length with spoilers. So please tune in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode, guys. That's it from us. Let us know what is your top 3 Ron Howard films, and let us know what you thought about Deadpool, what you thought about our discussion for Deadpool. Hopefully you're not too mad at us about that, specifically me. Shout out to my homie Colossus. Shout out to my homie Yukio.
Yukio.
I'm just giving shout outs.
Yeah, Yukio.
Yukio.
Hi, Yukio.
Hi Yukio. But let us know in the comments down below what you guys enjoyed the most. Comments is the best way for you guys to communicate with us. We try and read as many as we can every week. So please leave as many as you can every week. And with that was a Meaning Enough podcast. I'm Ace.
This is RB3.
And we are peacing out. Peace out.